Good morning and welcome to our work session and agenda briefing for Thursday, July 18th, 2019. I wanted to start the meeting honoring Art O'Hara and asking for a moment of silence and remembrance of all that he did in our community for our children. And he will be greatly missed, and we're so sad. Thank you. Is there anything that anyone else would like to share about Art?
Just a lot to say. I know some of us will be able to attend the memorial coming up this Saturday, but he was a person, just in years and working with him on JWB and other boards, that really had a heart for children. And I think he dealt with the politics because he had to, but his focus was always on children. And there were so many examples of how he, really came to the rescue on an issue. Happy Workers is a good example of that. And just turning that around and saving that really historical entity for the community. It's just one example of his work, and he will certainly be missed.
I know.
So thank you for recognizing me.
And I know that you'll be speaking at the memorial service, and thank you on behalf of the
Yes,
County
ma'am.
Commission for doing so.
Honored to do so.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Okay. Thank you. Okay. We now have a presentation that will be led by our County Administrator, Mr. Barry Burton, and it is on transportation and housing.
Well, good morning, Commissioner.
Morning.
Morning.
So it actually kind of feels odd being down here, right, on this side. But today we're going to, and we've heard loud and clear the issue of transportation, the need to do more. And we've come together as a team, So, with me, we've got obviously Raheem, Brad, and Whit. We've worked on this together, but not just, us, but the teams with the different agencies. So there's many other people in the audience from the different agencies have worked really hard to say, well, what are our options? What are our possibilities as we address transportation? We know it's a big problem. We know that it takes too long to get from point A to point B many times. And we also know that sometimes it's unsafe. But we also know that transportation impacts our local workforce. It impacts people accessing jobs, job training, and housing, and where they can go. So, we're at a kind of a crossroads. We need to change, and what we're here to do is begin a discussion with you regarding the direction of that change. So today, we're not here to make a decision. We're asking for some guidance. We've got some different options, and then we'll continue down that path and develop and refine it, working with our municipal and area partners to come up with a plan that we all support, in that direction. You've seen the next slide before, and this talks about our transportation trust fund. This is our gas tax, and this was what we use to maintain our rights-of-way, to maintain our roads. The current tax is it's a split between 60% county and 40% to the cities, but we're both in the same boat. That this in about 2022. We will be spending more, or actually we're spending more now, but the Transportation Trust Fund will be negative, and we would either have to reduce the level of service or increase revenue for the Transportation Trust Fund. The next slide you've seen also before with PSTA. PSTA is in the same situation. They earlier this year looked at service reductions because they know in about 2022 they will simply have to either reduce the level of service or enhance revenue to be able to maintain the existing system that they have. Earlier this year, we had a joint transportation funding workshop that was coordinated with Forward Pinellas. And there we had people from both the public sector and the private sector looking at our transportation system. The outcome was very clear, that we need to do more to address these challenges, but that we really need to look at the transportation system as a whole. The word cloud that you can see on the right of the screen, it highlights what our residents said. This is from our annual citizen survey, and it said traffic is a problem. I know that's not a surprise, but in fact that's what our residents said. So as we look at this, we also heard from them, it's very clear that while it's important to get from point A to point B quicker, we also need to give people more options in their transportation, in our transportation system, and they need to be able to get there safely regardless of the mode of transportation. So for today, we want to start by working together as a team to address these options and coming up with a solution that works for all of us. But what we wanted to really do is make sure that we did this in an integrated approach. We know that there are many factors that impact our community. Transportation, though, can be a link to help solve many of them. When we connect workers to jobs, when we help people spend less time on the road and more time with their family, we're improving the quality of life, and we're also improving our local economy. The equity report that was recently released said the same thing. It said we need to do more to provide connectivity for our residents to our regional assets and resources. A total transportation would give us the ability to reduce traffic congestion, strengthen our workforce by connecting underserved areas to jobs and workforce training, align our affordable housing with access to reliable transportation, and provide safer travel for all options. So as we looked at this, we tried to come up with a balanced approach. And we also wanted to be reasonable in how we did this. So to do this, we looked at how do we reduce road congestion? How do we make our transportation corridors safer? And how can we use enhanced transit services to better connect, our residents with services? We also were very cognizant that coming off of the Penny 4, we wanted to make sure that these are things to enhance what we're providing, not things that we've already programmed as part of Penny 4. So these are enhancements, and we're very clear to make sure that we didn't duplicate any of these projects. We also asked our area municipalities what are their needs. And you'll see in some of the slides, there's projects that aren't necessarily in a particular municipality. And part of that is because first we want to get this policy direction. We've gotten the list recently, and we want to sit down with them and work with them to identify what are these regional improvements that could be made as part of their system that would enhance our overall transit system. But we still need the time to work with them to further refine that.
Madam Chair,
Yes.
are you wanting questions as we go along, or do you want us to wait until the end?
However you want.
May I ask a question, Madam Chair? I'm very concerned about our partnerships that we have with our municipalities, Barry, and we've worked hard to have those partnerships. So I'm very curious how many responses you have received from our municipal partners.
I'd have to ask Raheem. We got responses. What we haven't had, and we really wanted to come here first, is then we want to sit down with them and refine that and incorporate those projects in our plan. So recently we just received like St. Pete's, but we haven't had a chance to meet with them and talk about like sidewalk gaps and some of the other things that I'm going to talk about in our program and how adding that to it, where those strategic investments would be. But we will do that as a follow-on to this presentation.
So is it safe to say then that this plan was put together without a lot of input from our cities?
Well, we received the city's input. We have
How
a lot of.
many?
So far,
We received 8. So we've received 8 responses.
Out of 24, correct?
Correct. But for the most part, like for instance, and it just depends on what you're talking about. So for instance, on some of our road intersections, most of the county roads go right through municipalities, right? Except down in like St. Pete. So we need to refine the list with St. Pete to incorporate that in. But for like intersections, we know where they're at. We know the intersections that need to be improved. Those have been incorporated into this. So it's more refinement by working with our cities than having a major impact on our overall plan. But the guidance that we get here today regarding some of the revenue issues will determine how we take our next step in working with the cities.
Okay.
So as we talk about reducing road congestion, the commission is to really be commended because you have an ATMS system that is, just second to none. And we know that getting more throughput out of our existing roads is the most efficient way, to move people and impact our quality of life. You implemented this many years ago. You've completed 267 miles. But we also know that there's about 16 miles of additional new collectors and arterials that need to be connected as part of that system. Again, as part of an overall program, we would finish that connection and make our entire system, put that on our ATMS system. We also know that we can incorporate newer technologies as we go along. So those aren't specifically called out, but they're built in. The idea that using newer technologies to, again, when you start with green, you get greens through a corridor, and it gets you from point A to point B faster. It also reduces road congestion. We also know that on average, we reduce your travel time by 13 to 15% on corridors that are on our ATMS system. But again, you can see with the slide to the right, many areas of our community are not connected. As part of this program, we would connect them. The next slide really talks about these road intersections I was talking about. And again, that's the reason I highlighted St. Pete. We do have their data. We're going to be meeting with them, incorporating them in, but putting in more dedicated turn lanes, reconfiguring the intersections to be more functional, but also adding safety improvements to reduce crashes, again, all with the idea of being able to move people in a safe and efficient manner. And you can see these intersections are throughout, and there's a lot more to be done with our overall transportation system in this. Next, we really want to talk about transportation safety. To be real blunt, we have too many crashes. We have too many crashes between cars, people, and bikes. And so looking at the safety of our transportation system, at the last, one of our last meetings, we were talking about trails. Well, this is the piece where if we go down this path, we would put overpasses on all those major corridors to deconflict bikes with the trails. Now, that's not always possible, so there's enhanced traffic control devices that we can put in. There, we identified 32 locations where we can put the rectangular rapid flashing beacon crossings. But they also are doing more with where you have bikes and where you have things that are close to intersections to be able to prevent turns, so it's no turn when there's other people present. So there's a lot that they can do with technologies. We would build that out, and that would be throughout the county. But again, the idea with making our transportation system safer, and this is a significant piece. But we also know that where we don't have streetlights, we have significantly more crashes. Here, we would look at 100 miles of unlit primary and secondary corridors. This would reduce pedestrian and vehicle crashes. We took one area highlighted on the picture to the right, and over in Lellman, and we just compared it, where we have streetlights and crashes to where we don't have streetlights. And there's a significant increase in crashes because the area is not lit in the evening hours. So again, we believe we can get a 28% reduction in the number of crashes as a result of finishing and building out the streetlights in these primary and secondary corridors. And then finally, we would look at in making investments in our infrastructure by completing over 120 miles of sidewalk gaps. We also have 6 aging bridges that were not considered as part of the penny that we would look at some point at replacing. But again, as part of a transportation system, you're giving people more options. They can bike, they can drive, they can take transit, they can walk, and completing this overall transportation system makes a more efficient system. And then the final piece, is enhancing our transit services. I watch, probably too much TV, but I saw a commercial that I forget which university, but it says that the world distributes talent equally, but not necessarily opportunity. And I think it's very fitting for what we're really talking about, is trying to give people opportunity to engage in our workforce. We saw that with our equity report. It said how many billion more our economic GDP would be if everybody was engaged in our economy. So creating these opportunities is key to enhancing our local workforce. Getting people from point A to be able to participate in our economy is good economics. Our businesses tell us that and St. Petersburg College tells us that they can't get people to training, and they've got jobs that they could put them in if they could get them into the training programs. So making these connections is key for our local economic development. So as we look at making these better connections, we really look around jobs, job training, and housing that's affordable, but also maintaining existing, as we talked about on that third slide, maintaining our existing level of service. As we kind of looked at how we would do this, we looked at trying to make this a data-driven approach. We've talked a lot about data and making smart investments. Well, here we've tried to take the key indicators that would help refine where we would make these investments and how we can make these linkages. So we ask ourselves three main questions. We said, what areas are we trying to better connect? What corridors connect them? And what corridors could we prioritize for enhanced transit service? This would be these priority corridors.
Barry?
Yes.
Yeah, along the lines of what Janet brought up with regards to the cities, it seems to me that as we go back to that very first slide about the integrated approach, that we need to incorporate the organizations that are involved with our seniors, and what's going to maybe AARP, but plug into the needs of that group that I don't necessarily see in this, quote, integrated transportation approach, but perhaps it is. Obviously, our universities, economic development, and our businesses, the chambers, and that kind of thing. So when we go back out to talk to folks, I think those are going to be universities, AARP, for instance, those kinds of groups, to get their input too will be super critical as we try to get that integrated approach.
I think that's a very, very good point. We know our senior population is a significant part of our local economy, and those connections are just as important. So yes, we will make sure that we incorporate that as part of that discussion.
And to follow up on that, also the school system.
Yes. And, and as before I went out and talked to those different groups, and you heard that we were trying to, enhance revenue and things like that, we wanted to come here to the policymakers, the people that hire and fire me first, and make sure we're on the right path. But we certainly want to make sure that we talk to all of our community partners as we refine this plan going forward. And those are very, very good points. So as we looked at how do we connect folks, we really, again, wanted to try to look at a data-driven approach. We can't make investments everywhere. It's simply too costly and not efficient. So we really looked at where are the jobs and job training nests. We looked at employment and workforce development areas that have high employment densities, areas that have opportunity zones, job training opportunities. We also looked at our population centers, areas that have high population densities. We looked at overlaid with lower income areas and also households without cars. Finally, we looked at where we've already made investments in affordable housing and also where the housing is where people at the lower income can afford to live. And then finally, we looked at areas that are likely for future redevelopment. We looked at older commercial areas that were built before 1980. They're underutilized based upon the building value to land value, a larger lot, and they're within a quarter mile of key transportation corridors. So again, we've tried to take a data-driven approach, and we put this on a GIS overlay. And on the next slide, you can kind of see, all of a sudden, when you overlay those, you begin to really zero in on key areas. And that allows us to strategically make investments to be able to make these corridors come to life. And so we've created investment corridors. It's a data-driven approach. It relies on both public and private sector investments, and it's supported by the Advantage Pinellas plan, our countywide plan. So as we develop these priority corridors, we come up with three primary priority corridors. Those are US 19 South, Roosevelt Boulevard, East Bay Drive, and US Alt 19 South. These routes, we believe, are ready for higher investment in transit. We believe that this gets people to their destination quick and reliable, and it would improve the service level. So you'd have less stops, to where then again it becomes much more utilized because people can actually get somewhere in a timely manner. On the next few slides, we're going to explain a little bit about each one of these routes. So on the US 19 South, you have high population densities, you have low-income areas, you have zero-car households. It connects workforce training with all of these, and it also connects several CRAs. So we have the Lellman CRA, South St. Pete CRA, and the Skyway Marina District. You can see we've put up in each one of these kind of the cost of those, and those were on the previous capital improvements, because this will kind of roll up at the end to kind of get to the issue of how do we accomplish all this. Along the Roosevelt Boulevard East Bay Drive, here you have 15% of the people along this corridor have income levels below poverty. You also have the redevelopment. This would be supported by the Gateway Master Plan. But it really connects residential areas with medical, office, and manufacturing jobs. Jobs where our employers are telling us that they can't get people to. They have jobs that are simply unfilled. And then finally, we focused in on Alt 19 South. Along this connection, we have connections to downtown Clearwater, downtown Largo, and West St. Pete. It touches 4 opportunity zones and 5 activity centers. And believe it or not, you have 5,500 households along this corridor that don't have cars. So as we focused in on these primary routes, these are our primary routes. But you also have to have connections within those routes. So these are the routes that feed into these primary routes. So we've incorporated in that support, so those additional needs that would connect these routes to create a more faster and a more reliable and organized or efficient approach to feeding the overall transit system. So we've incorporated that into our overall cost. And next, we also know that we have to maintain the existing service. If we do nothing, there's additional money needed just to maintain the existing services. So we've incorporated that into our overall, plan and look at this. So what does all this mean? So if we roll it up, we're talking, a significant amount of money, but money that's well invested. It's data driven. It makes real differences in getting people from point A to point B, creating opportunities and creating a safer transportation system. But if you look at this, obviously there's a significant amount of capital cost. A lot of the capital cost is in our transportation system. A lot of the operating cost is obviously in our transit system. But over a 10-year program, there's a significant amount of cost, approximately $700 million. Again, there'll be additional amounts that we'll be incorporating as we reach out to our municipal and community partners.
I have a question.
Yes.
What does it mean that does not include costs for programs within the unincorporated? Never mind.
With the municipalities.
Got it. I thought it said unincorporated. Okay.
So, again.
But some of them would. Those corridors, like you said, go
Some
through
of it
cities.
is included because we've already included things that we knew. But yeah, what I'm really trying to say is we're going to refine this as we go forward. But we're in the ballpark. We know, plus or minus, a little bit. We're in that ballpark. Which what I wanted to understand is if we're able to do these things, what does that cost? Now the next slide we're kind of outlining.
Can I ask a question before you go
Sure.
there? I was trying to wait, but so to follow up on that question, do you have a placeholder within these numbers? You mentioned St. Pete for an example, but for the other cities that we know they have some need in these areas, but they haven't identified the need, is there a placeholder within that $392 million for capital, for example?
There's not. It would be in addition to.
Okay.
But when we get to our revenue options, that's where we're kind of ballparking, and we'll refine that as we go forward. When we come back with a strategy, we'll know what those numbers are. But again, we're in that ballpark. Yes, there's an additional amount, and some of this will need to be refined anyway. And we're looking at this over a 10-year period, obviously. But yeah, we need to refine that. That'll be in addition to. We haven't just ballparked a number of a guesstimate.
Okay, is it fair to say for the transit, for example, though, you've got a pretty good feel
Transit, we
countywide
do.
already?
You bet.
Okay. So can I ask another question just to make sure I'm understanding? So for the $130 million for enhanced transit services, what's the biggest part of that? Is that purchasing buses? Just
For the
give us-
capital piece, it's purchasing buses. Yes.
Okay. And for the transportation corridors, safety above that, the $197 million, what's the bulk of that, just in?
In the
plain
transportation corridors,
Yeah.
that goes back to the previous slide. So that's both the everything from the intersections to the street lights to the sidewalk gaps.
So it's road improvements, that kind of thing is
Correct.
the bulk of the 197. And then
That's correct.
on the reducing road congestion, that's back to the ITS.
That's back to the ITS.
So how much of that is incremental because we've still got the 9 cent.
That's correct.
So how much of that is incremental?
So there's
Above what the
approximately
9 cent.
11, is that the 11 miles? The 11 miles is built into our current plan. So there's another, how many miles?
It's slide 8, you said?
49.
Okay.
60 miles? Yeah. So another 60 miles that we would incorporate as part of this plan.
Okay, and one other question, since I would disappoint folks if I didn't ask.
22nd Avenue South.
On one of these slides, you got 22nd Avenue South.
You just said. Yeah.
I didn't want to disappoint y'all. So that's the Safer Transportation Corridor slide. And so the question is, similar to the 9 cent question, that
I like that about it.
section has been in several pennies. So is this in addition to what was planned for that?
You wanna address
Since
that,
we had
Raheem?
dollars set aside in previous pennies for
I'll
that.
let Raheem get into
Okay.
specifics around specific projects.
What slide are you referring to, Commissioner?
I don't see a number on it. It's the one that says Safer Transportation Corridors.
13.
Fill 120 miles of sidewalk gaps.
Yeah. So, what we did, just to give you a little background, Raheem Harji, Assistant County Administrator, just to give you a little background on how we developed this map. We looked at just general areas where, because we've mapped our whole sidewalk inventory, right? We looked at areas where there were gaps, and we just pulled those areas out. So these gaps may be filled in over time with certain capital projects, but this is as of today. This is where we are. So we look at opportunities to fill gaps in through, like, for example, 22nd Avenue South. There is a capital project that may fund the sidewalk installation down the line. There may be another area in the county where we're doing some operations and maintenance work. We'll fill that gap in over time. This was just a snapshot of what we have today.
Okay, and I guess what I would want to see at some point is the incremental improvement, because
So
like
to
I said,
Barry's point, with a lot of these projects, including what the municipalities' needs are, this was just intended to show how this would be structured. Then we'd refine the numbers, get into the details as the next step. And maybe, this might be taken care of through another need, but it might free up some funding or opportunity for another project that another city might have. So we
Okay.
still have a lot of refinement to do.
But I want you to be clear on what I'm asking, though, because
Sure.
that was an identified project that was supposed to be funded by several penny
So in
for
other words,
Pinellas
that
previously.
specific one incorporated into the
Right.
penny.
It is.
And so it shouldn't be on our.
Right.
I
I
shouldn't be
want
on
to
the-
see incremental
Sure.
value from any new funding.
And this is just was a snapshot as of
Okay.
the date, but we will be able to break that out.
Okay, thank you.
And as we go to the next slide, kind of to your question, Commissioner, we have several different options regarding funding, and there's as many different options out there as people you can talk to. But we kind of refined it down, and this is where we kind of get into having the discussion regarding where we go with this. Obviously, we currently have our local option fuel tax or gas tax. Under the current arrangement, it's split between 60% for the county and 40% for our cities. That generates about $18 million a year, $17.9 million a year on average for over the next 10 years.
In total.
17 million per year.
Yeah. I'm sorry, I needed to recognize Commissioner Justice. Do you want to ask your question now?
Sure. Thank you, Madam Chair. And it really, I mean, Commissioner Welch's question really hit the heart of what I was going at. But when we looked at that portion that was for enhanced transit services, 130 million capital and 30 million operating, it was, you said the majority of that was for bus purchases. And I guess that's part of our discussion of what is enhanced transit services, and is it more buses, or are there other alternative methods as well? And that's part of the discussion now, but I just wanted, there's been some assumptions made in there to come up with that number, and so I just wanted
Correct.
to get some clarity on that.
PSTA could come up, or you can. Okay, come on up, Wood.
Thank you. Good morning. Whit Blanton with Ford Pinellas. What we did for the investment corridors is we looked at a limited stop, higher frequency, longer span of service in these corridors, because a lot of our workers start a really early shift or they work a very late shift, hospitals and even college classes and things like that. So we developed a capital cost using PSTA's cost allocation numbers. to come up with a capital and operating cost for basically a 15-minute frequency, limited stop service operating in those 3 corridors.
So basically express best service.
Essentially express transit service, correct.
Okay.
It would be on top of the existing local service, so you would still have local service, but this would be limited stop, cut your travel time significantly kind of service within those corridors.
Can I follow up real quick while Whit's
Yes.
up there? So that included extended hours and weekend hours?
It did, weekend and
What-
extended hours.
What hours are you looking at? I know it's
I think we were
ballpark.
generally looking at as late as 10, 11 o'clock in the evening, starting at 6 a.m., if not a little bit before that, so about a 12-hour span of service.
Okay, thank you.
Not to really
18
get in the
hour,
weeds, but are we talking hybrid buses or what? Big buses, smaller buses?
Those are decisions that would be far down the road, yeah, in
Well-
terms of specifics of what that service looks like. It really, just to get to a number, it's really driven by the frequency and the span of service. That's a
Madam Chair?
conversation we'd have to have for every one of those quarters.
We have been very focused, and the new information that we learned on just this Monday at the Transportation Minority Conference that they had over in Tampa, that the largest percentage of carbon footprint comes from our public transportation systems. And we made a strategic plan at PSTA, I don't remember how long ago, it was quite a while ago, that we would have as our objective to do our part to reduce the carbon footprint. And so we have slowly started moving towards electric buses and vehicles at PSTA. And I venture to say that this would include that as well, because we don't want to go back to, the fossil fuel generated transit. It's not good for our environment.
Smaller buses?
Could be, depends on the data for the ridership.
I think for these corridors, you probably would want a standard bus at a minimum, not a small cutaway bus, because these would be your heavier ridership, longer haul service. This is not neighborhood service. So I think you would go with generally a standard or a larger vehicle. That's a conversation certainly that's down the road.
Commissioner?
Yeah, and I've kind of been thinking about it along the lines of having kind of looking at things on different layers, like that inter-county service that we're going to talk about, that transit that we've been talking about, the longer runs, bigger buses, and then that local bus service, which is probably more of the smaller buses and some of the buses that you're seeing around now. There's the other element which we'll pick up when we get AARP involved is that there are a lot of seniors, and that growing population is really going to be doing less and less with cars. Not that they can't afford them, but they're going to need to be getting out there. We've seen the terrible suicide numbers, especially when it comes to seniors feeling isolated. And so that part of it, that element, which we haven't talked about, it may be more pointed service. I don't want to call it like care ride, but when you have appointments made for service, I just want to make sure that we start factoring in an element of that as well, because those folks are critically important, and they may be able to afford things, but they certainly have to be able to get there. So,
Very, very significant part of our population, and something we can certainly refine as we go along. But, on that, so back on the transportation, or the different funding options, one of the concepts is, kind of where we go with that. Obviously, if we simply did nothing, we would come back to you and say, all right, we really need to look at our gas tax to maintain the existing level of service. That's just to maintain what we have without enhancements. That it generates about $18 million a year. Again, right now, that goes between the cities and the counties. We could look at a transportation sales tax. That obviously would be voter driven, and so we would have to go to referendum. And you can see under the scenarios what different amounts generate over a 10-year period. And then finally, obviously, we have ad valorem taxes, our millage. We could increase that under the general fund. Currently, PSTA, to increase theirs would require a legislative change. And so, these are kind of some of the other options. We could, we've talked about some different fees and different changes to some of our structures, but those are minor in comparison to the overall number. But to your point, Commissioner, and a couple of commissioners regarding how we address this overall, if we decide to go down a path of a sales tax increase, for instance, there's room to address our municipal needs in there, as you can see. There's also room to address things like, from a regional, standpoint, we know that we may be asked to have local matches for regional projects that connect not just within Pinellas County, but the region. There would be room within our revenue sources to be able to address some of those challenges as they come up. So we would take those, as they come at the time that they come. And we had actually some of those kind of outlined on some of those previous slides of, what could be connected. So again, we look at it as a transportation system. We know that with technology and time, things are going to change. This would give us sufficient room to be able to move with that change, but also really focus on enhancing our transportation system right here and right now. So we know that transportation is a key to linking our jobs, our job training, our affordable housing, having safe roads that are less congested, with fewer accidents. We've heard from our residents. We know that we need to do something, and so what we're trying to do is leverage private investment to build a better future. We also know that we're working very hard on some of our housing programs. Certain municipalities are working very hard on those housing programs, aligning these to where we're making strategic investments. You've set aside 4.15% for affordable housing in the penny money, making sure that we invest in the right areas to where people have services available to them is, I think, key. So it makes good financial sense also, plus it creates those opportunities. So again, the idea today is that we thought we would bring this to you, get your thoughts, have this discussion, and then reach out to our municipal, public, and private sector partners. We would consider their ideas, meet with you to kind of refine that and hear your thoughts, and then put that on back for another work session in a month or two, and continue to have this discussion and refine our plan prior to making a decision regarding which strategy or our overall strategy that we want to take. With that concludes my presentation. And
Commissioner
certainly open
Peters,
it up
did
for
you have some
questions.
questions?
No, it's fine, thank you.
Anybody else? Commissioner
I have
Garrett?
one comment that I brought up at PSTA several times about the 118th Bryan Dairy Road corridor and how that's projected to be a very high job area, not necessarily housing, but a job area. And we have very little service that goes down there, so, transit service.
Okay.
So something to look at, I think.
Okay.
There are a lot of hidden jobs back there.
Madam Chair.
Yes, Commissioner Wong.
Barry, to Commissioner Gerard's point, I think it would be wise to connect with the district secretary, David Gwynn,
Okay.
about the projections on 118th, or Bryan Dairy, or
Whatever you want to call it.
whatever, the name of the road changes from the time you get off the Howard Franklin till you get all the way over to the west end. But the fact of the matter is, there is a gazillion pieces of that road that are under construction right now that hook up with the gateway corridors. And once that's all completed, I just can't even imagine moving back and forth over that corridor. It's going to be a nightmare in terms of numbers. Plus, it connects right to 19.
Right.
There are overall 9, as you know, 9 primary corridors, and so we did refine this down. We could certainly take a look at that. We have left, as you saw, depending upon the funding options, we've left room to address some of that. We've also left room because we've focused on these primary corridors, but that doesn't mean that within particular routes that, based upon demand, you can't do enhanced levels of service. I think there's room within the plan to be able to address some of that. So for instance, up on 580, there's room to look at that. We have large, employment corridors out in Oldsmar. So we can do that, and we can do a data-driven approach on each one of these corridors as the demand and as our population changes. As we get more millennials moving to particular areas, they're gonna use certain services differently than what we currently do today. And so I think there's sufficient money within this idea to address some of those particular needs. But we can specifically look at the Bryan Dairy Road corridor
Thank
as
you.
part of
So,
this.
Madam Chair, may I complete my comments, though, before we start our discussion about the funding?
Sure.
Okay. I wanted to share with everybody two things. On Monday of this week, the House Highway and Transit Subcommittee of Transportation and Infrastructure held a hearing on the Federal Transit Administration's administration of the Capital Investment Grant Program. And a large function of the conversation in that hearing focused on the testimony on the need for Congress to address the insolvency of the Highway Trust Fund, arguing that next year highway and transit funding will be at risk without new revenue. He suggested three options for Congress to consider: raise the federal fuel tax, establish a freight-based user fee, and initiate a federal excise tax on electric vehicle batteries. And so I wanted to share that so that you would understand that we are not the only ones that are at risk of having our transit trust fund run out of dollars. And the second thing I wanted to share was that I've been appointed by the Florida Association of Counties to serve on a subcommittee for the new highway transportation plan that the state is developing. And they have a subsection of the committees that are working on resiliency, climate change, sea level rise issues that affect our transportation corridors. And we had a very deep dive discussion on how transportation funding has not changed for 50 years. And with the way technology is changing how we look at public transportation options, there's got to be a more nimble way to access those dollars that are available so that we have better opportunities to partner. And I just wanted you to be aware of that as we move forward, that we're not the only ones that are having this kind of conversation.
I have a question on THEA. Have we had any discussions any further with them about toll roads?
I'll ask for our partners to come up. Why don't all of you come up, because we're going to get into the transportation discussions, funding discussions. This, I would defer.
Because that's another option altogether.
Correct.
So as part of the Advantage Pinellas plan, we'll be looking at options for tolling. We have discussed, we took the agreement with THEA, we have an agreement with THEA for them to look at sketch level analysis. We haven't given them the corridors yet
You
for them to
haven't?
elect, not yet,
Okay.
but we will as part of the Advantage Pinellas plan.
Okay.
So that should be coming up soon.
I'd like, I'm just going to make a couple more comments and I'll turn to Commissioner Welch. So we can try for a name change again on Bryan Dairy. I worked on that and worked on name changes for years and
I know you-
years. And now that I'm back on Forward Pinellas, let's put it on the agenda, shall we? Our hiccup was the mayor at that time would not agree to change it in St. Petersburg. And so we were stalemated more than once in trying to make that name change. We had everybody else agreeable. It would have taken probably a couple of years to make it happen, just because you have to let people change their addresses with the postal system, et cetera, to make it work. I mean, honestly, I wish we could do this throughout Pinellas, because it is just irritating to me how many name changes, especially like, I think Alt 19 is one of the worst. I want to say it has 13 different names, if I'm remembering correctly, but I have my file and I know where it is.
I couldn't agree with you more, Commissioner. It's really tough if you're trying to give directions to someone that's not familiar with the area.
With our tourists, it's totally confusing.
So,
The other thing that I wanted to mention was remembering the Bayside Connector going and joining into McMullen Booth Road, and also remembering that this the Roosevelt Connector, which then takes it to US 19, And I think that's going to be completed in 2023, I believe. And one of my babies, thankfully it's under construction. But that will make going from South St. P all the way to the anticipated interchanges up to Tampa Road without a stoplight. And that is really crucial. But then I do want to point out that Ford Pinellas is looking at alternatives for the corridors, intersections and interchanges north of there. I continue to think that one of our goals is to make it seamless to the Pasco County line. So I'm hopeful that whatever alternative interchanges we look at will solve that problem. We have never had an entire north-south corridor. You know, that's been one of my passions, to make sure that that's done so that we truly have a regional corridor in our county. The other thing, and I've mentioned it to Whit before, is that we need to look immediately at the Bayside Bridge at Drew Street, because that already backs up terribly. And once we finish that connector and it lands across that bridge, it is going to be a bottleneck at that intersection. So we need to be developing alternatives immediately to be able to solve that problem. Okay, Commissioner Welch.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Barry and your team, y'all did a great job on this. This is a lot of good information. And after we go through the community engagement, this comes back to us in October for kind of a direction setting. Is that correct?
Correct.
Okay. So I just have a couple questions. If we can, on slide 27, on the funding options, can you tell us about the timing for that? If we were going to implement a fuel tax, what does it take to do that, and when would it take effect? And the same thing for the surtax.
There's a notification time period, but you can do the fuel tax at any time. That does not require a voter referendum. I think we have to notify Department of Revenue by October 1, I believe, for it to take place the following year.
So is October 1 the cutoff for it to be effective January 1?
I believe so. Is that correct, Raheem? Yeah. Yeah. So again, but again, we're trying to get all of our strategies in line, so we weren't necessarily looking at that. But if we
Well, I
wanted,
just want to understand what the timing is.
yeah,
So-
it is. So we would have to notify Department of Revenue, I think, by October 1 for that to be able to take place the following year.
And what about a referendum? What's the requirement there in terms of timing and the boards?
Well, if you go to our last slide where we talk about a timeline. If we're going to go to referendum, we really need a decision by early 2020. If we back up some of the notification time periods to go to the state and they approve the language and et cetera and stuff, it's really March, but that would be the absolute drop dead, and I wouldn't feel comfortable at that time period. We'd really be talking about a January, February time period.
Okay. And ad valorem is just a regular budget cycle?
That's correct.
Couple other ones, Madam Chair. So I see Mr. Berger's out there. I want to make sure I've got the math right here. So on slide 26, so we've got 31 million in annual O&M. I'm just trying to get a number for a decade. So that's 30 million a year, 31 million a year. So it's about 300 million for O&M over a decade, and then about 400 million for capital.
It comes up to 707 million.
So this plan is 700 million
Correct.
for a decade.
Correct.
And under your funding options,
Half-cent sales tax generates
Okay.
right at 1 billion.
and those are the incremental options. I didn't even know you could do a quarter cent. Those are options.
Yes, those are your options. Obviously, you go quarter, you go half, you can go three-quarter, you
You
can go
can't do
penny.
three-quarter? Okay,
Yeah, you could. Hard to explain, but yeah.
okay. And the last question so far is on the PSTA issue. On slide 26, you've got enhanced transit services.
Correct.
But on a previous slide, you're showing PSTA, I think they go into the red in 22, FY 22, just like we do.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, slide 3. So do those, I mean, how does PSTA plan to keep your regular service on the
Well-
street if we're classifying this as enhanced?
Well, we've incorporated into the enhanced, we also have on slide 25, maintaining the existing level of service.
25?
So on slide 25, we put 15 million aside, right? And that's programmed out over 10 years. So today, they're running the red probably, 4 to 5 million. And so, enhanced, continuing to escalate that cost over a decade.
So that 15
it
keeps the
covers-
service we have on the ground now?
That's
okay.
correct.
And what's the plan for the first mile, last mile? Because the corridors are great and it's a good plan, but how is first mile, last mile working for
To our
PSTA now?
partners here.
Oh. Good morning.
How are you doing?
Brad Miller, CEO of PSTA. Feels like this is deja vu, but thank you for it's a great partnership, and thank you for being open-minded to looking at different transit options. So the numbers that are in this presentation, the capital costs and the operating costs include funding for connecting first mile, last mile kind of connections to those 3 designated integrated corridors, in addition to our baseline services that we have today. As you know, PSTA has a lot of innovative sort of first mile, last mile programs, partnerships with Uber and Lyft and things like that. Those are still going well. That would be part of what we maintain in the future. Who knows what the future will bring as far as new technologies, but I would envision that the funding is in there to enhance those services in those 3 designated corridors.
Okay.
In addition to what we've got now.
Great. Thank you. Thank you, Madam Chair.
Commissioner Eggers?
Yeah, I wanted to echo what Commissioner Welch said. I think a great job. I think if we're going to develop a story for whatever funding option we decide to go down, our residents, clearly from the last go-around to this go-around, they want the facts. They want to know the whole picture, not just about what bus is going to go down what road. So I think this is the way to do it. I think telling the whole story, and it's comprehensive, and it takes into account affordable housing, and it takes into account business development, and it takes into account densities and land use and connectivity to other counties. And I mean, if you don't do that, I think everybody out there is going to say this just doesn't make sense for me. So I'm really happy about that, and I think continuing to be really good on communication along the way is going to be super critical. You and Charlie both mentioned the not concern, but just the idea that there is money being put into the current penny for infrastructure, and that is a separate plan that's being developed as we speak, as it gets less specific as we go out in the 10 years, but certainly it will develop over time. So separating out what this infrastructure demand or use of funds is going to be from the other, it's going to need to be very clear so that it's an incremental add-on. We're not wasting and not finding more money for government to do whatever they want with, but really telling a specific story about congestion management almost. So I think that's going to be really important. And I think on that one slide, I want to just get back to the very beginning about transportation. I think we need one more little structure there, if you will, that adds socioeconomic to it, because I think it does reflect attracting and retaining businesses here is really super critical, and what the young people are looking for. But I've said a couple of times what the elderly folks are looking for too. So that little socioeconomic piece, I think, is going to be critical as it relates to transportation. And the last point, I think Commissioner Seal brought up, and that was the THEA. And I think that exploration, and I'm not even talking toll roads or not toll roads, I'm talking about using the infrastructure we have. For instance, McMillan Booth Road, where we have 2 or 3 lanes going different directions, and we know that the super congestion instead of normal congestion occurs at about 2 hours in the morning and 2 hours in the afternoon, and there's a lot of roadway that's being unused in the opposite direction. So I'd really like to make sure that we explore that as well. So you have light interruption, you have HOV, whatever they're called, reverse HOV lanes. I think those are lower cost, but I think we can just do some things and do it pretty soon to start alleviating some of that congestion. We have the infrastructure. We just aren't using it maybe correctly. So just those few thoughts to throw into the mess. Thank you.
Thank you.
I agree with you. You know, that's something that we've talked for years about, trying to look at HOV lanes
Yeah.
and
Just,
express lanes. They use them all over the United States.
Right.
this isn't new.
And so,
Cool idea.
Commissioner Gerard?
Well, I just wanted to say how exciting this is to have these three entities working together. It's amazing, you know, when we combine the planning,
Council.
what was the name of that thing? PPC and the MPO. That was kind of what we were hoping to get to, but this is kind of looking at the whole picture, and that's really great. I just want to put in a pitch while we're working on those three corridors, those express corridors for transit. We have a barely adequate system now in terms of frequency on all the other routes. So, I mean, there are some that are great, others that are once an hour. So we really need to work on that one as we're creating this bigger, very efficient system, and that will also help our elderly people. There are lots of elderly people on the bus now, let me tell you.
Good. Very good point.
I wasn't going to say myself included. Don't look at me like that.
It's nice to see you become a transit advocate.
Hey. That was
Commissioner
it.
Justice?
Thank you, Madam Chair. We were talking about the assumptions and the costs on the enhanced transit. We're talking about the buses and that kind of thing. And one of the things I have constituents always ask, and I don't know, if green light was kind of on its way down the tracks before I really came in, but was the question about
Did he say that?
There are no tracks here, okay? Just,
well,
No track.
well, that is the question, though, is that
That's good.
I get asked all the time, especially in St. Pete and the Lellman area, is how come they never use the CSX tracks, the ones that actually go? And if you look at the slide 20, getting from downtown St. Pete to downtown Clearwater is one of the routes. And so I've always said, well, CSX is a challenge to work with, and the costs are high. And it's probably been more assumption than I really know. So I didn't know if you all had those conversations. Is that ever been a in-depth look at those tracks?
There has been in the past. What I will say about CSX is that they're very willing, I think, to sell those tracks. The cost is enormous, and they're going to want us to, at least the last I've heard, to work with them to allow them to continue operating freight on those. And they're going to want whoever purchases those tracks to pay for the upgrade of those tracks because they're not willing to invest in those tracks. The service is just too limited. So I think there are some really, really big costs associated with that. What we're saying in the Advantage Long Range Plan is that that's a future option. It's an unfunded need. We're going to continue to keep it on the radar. Frankly, I think if we're going to look at a light rail option, we're going to need to look at something coming out from Tampa. And the DOT is a great partner. They are hardening the Howard Franklin Bridge as it gets built to support light rail at some point in the future. I just don't think we're there right now as a community to really have a serious conversation about that because of the costs. And I think we need to kind of work on what we have now and developing some level of frequent, reliable service in our key transit corridors that we have today. But I agree with you, it's an underutilized asset. It's probably the biggest underutilized asset of infrastructure we have in the county. I just think it's a really heavy lift, and it's going to take a lot more time, but it's on the long-range radar, and if something were to happen to trigger that, like the Florida legislature would agree to set aside funds to purchase those tracks, Hillsborough County is probably going to be having those conversations with their All for Transportation tax. So it's sort of like, it's a wait and see, and let's watch how things develop over there.
Has there been discussion at any point about a pilot program where, so that you don't go all in, but you lease a passenger train that has to be specially, I know there has to be a special train to fit on the old tracks, to see if the ridership is there and it works, and we ever talked about that.
That's a good question. That's a conversation we could have with CSX. I do think that before you got a passenger train operating on those tracks, you would have to spend significant dollars upgrading the tracks because the trains today for freight operate really slowly, and it just wouldn't be cost effective or travel time effective for passenger trains to operate at 10 or 11 miles an hour.
Okay.
Madam
And
Chair?
the second question I had was, you talked about that community conversation was, when we talked about, I guess it was the penny, we had a long-term calendar of all the other referendums, and I couldn't remember when the school board referendum and those other referendums were coming up again, and so we just need to be cognizant of that timeline.
Okay. Commissioner Long?
Yes, with regard to the CSX questions, Commissioner Justice, I wanted to share that at T-BARTA, we have had some very in-depth discussions about CSX, and there are discussions going on, I believe, with the staff of T-BARTA and the staff of CSX. But the technology, because technology is moving so quickly and there's so many new and innovative things that we're talking about at T-BARTA on the policy committee and the legislative committee, I think that you're going to see some new opportunities emerge that won't take us back to the heavier modes of freight, heavy trains and rail and that sort of thing. So stay tuned. But the cost is the biggest issue with working with CSX, as you may remember from when we were in the legislature and dealt with them. Thank you, Madam Chair.
And you were able to secure $1 million in studying alternative transportation technologies.
Yes, we were, and there's some new projects that we're soon to be talking about. So more on that to come very quickly.
Yeah. Commissioner Welch?
Yeah, just follow up on that. Are there any dollars set aside or anticipated for potential connection to Brightline in the future in these numbers?
That as well. Yes, Commissioner, that's an important regional conversation. So one of the things we're doing with our Advantage Long Range Transportation Plan is to work with Hillsborough and Pasco on a single regional long range plan. And the centerpiece of that is going to be, how do we connect from an express transit standpoint into where Brightline, Virgin trains may come into, say, East Tampa?
Okay.
So that's on the radar. We're watching that very closely. They're, as you know, under construction to go to Orlando. They've talked about the next step being to Tampa, and they're actively investigating where a station may be. So that's
Can that be
something.
accommodated within this 700 million, or is it?
That's where the flexibility that the administrator talked about might come into play. What we've identified, for instance, is through working with T-BARTA and FDOT, is the I-275 corridor, as you know, is this regional rapid transit scenario that's now in the PD&E or design phase. In the next 2 years, we'll know more about what that service and system looks like, and there may very well be an ask back to us of what's our local commitment to operate and maintain that service, our share of that. So that's a piece of it. We've also looked at the State Road 60 corridor that would go from Clearwater Beach to the Tampa International Airport and beyond, and that would be a very direct connection. And the Tampa International Airport is shaping up to be a multimodal hub or center where you could transfer to HART routes and connect to the airport. And I think that's centrally located in our region, so it just makes a ton of sense.
Okay.
So those are a couple where we see those options happening. We also have a PD&E starting for the Gandy Bridge, Gandy Corridor. And in that envelope, we would be looking at potential transit options as well. And it kind of underscores the importance of having a conversation here in Pinellas County, because anything that you want to do to engage the state of Florida in a funding proposition, you're going to have to bring local dollars to the table. And it's a little bit different than highways. When you build a highway, it's a state road, and they're going to maintain and operate it and serve that highway. If it's a transit system, they'll help you on the capital end, and they'll help you for a limited time on the operating end. But generally speaking, you're on your own for the operating for any transit project. So in order to bring dollars into Pinellas County, we need to be prepared to have dollars ready to commit for projects that make good sense. And that's why this data-driven approach identified the 3 corridors, but we're not losing sight of the fact that I-275 and the State Road 60 corridors, and even US 19 North going into Pasco County, are really good candidates too. But I think we want to make sure we've got the partnership with Pasco, with Hillsborough, with the Department of Transportation before we would advance those. So the 3 corridors we've picked are all within Pinellas County, and they connect our neighborhood areas that are needing it with the job opportunities that are here in our county.
Thank you, Whit. Thank you.
Okay. Except for the maintenance of PSTA services, all the infrastructure that you've talked about, the capital expenses, they are not currently programmed in our penny.
That's correct. And we're gonna continue to
This
refine
would
that.
be
I know that's a
all
messaging, but
new.
that's been very clear that we wanna make sure that everything that was promised is completely separate from the program that we're proposing here today.
Anyone else?
Just one other, yeah, and I'm glad you brought that up. I mean, I think that's a really good point. And the other concept is that whatever funding source that we use is gonna be not, like the current penny is exclusively for capital.
Correct.
So this additional funding will be not only for some capital, but for some O&M, which
operating,
is,
that's correct.
which is a different element. So I
Yes.
think that's gonna be important.
And we tried to find balance. I mean, you know, obviously, if we go down a sales tax path, well, then everybody's contributing to that. So we wanted to make sure there's enhancements for all parts of our county, because there's needs everywhere. So we were trying to create that balance.
Yeah, that was gonna be my last comment about, you know, being able to use our tourist partners as well, so. Okay.
For light reading, you all may want to go back and review the transportation system surtax and what you can and can't do with it. Also, remember both the gas tax, which has already been mentioned, but this surtax would also have to be discussed with the cities as far as distribution. So what you're
Correct.
proposing really at this point is just PSTA, county capital, and that with both the capital and the O&M is about 430 million in itself. So,
And there's several combinations that we could look at here, obviously. If you're willing to look at the sales tax, obviously, then that becomes a significant issue in terms of how we frame the size and the magnitude of the program. But yeah, there's certain limitations, but so for instance, we currently have the local option sales tax. If we're successful in a referendum and we show the voters value, and we're able to have a sales tax, well, I don't believe we need to. The local option sales tax could maintain our infrastructure into the future, and we could continue with the agreements that we have with the cities. We don't necessarily open that up. However, if you say, you know, we're not going down this other path, let's just maintain what we have, well, then we need to look at options available without going to voter referendum to maintain existing service. And we may need to open those agreements up and have those discussions with the city. So, you know, a couple of different paths depending upon the, you know, where we kind of go with this.
but, I mean, with the the transportation surtax, it's either one, you know, you negotiate an interlocal agreement with the majority of the municipalities, population-wise, or second, you go with the formula.
Correct.
And so,
Oh, and if I could interject on
Yeah.
this particular tax that we're talking about, we are not required to share it with the cities.
We are not.
Like we are with the penny. We
Okay.
may share it with
We
the
may,
cities or
okay.
with the transit authority such as PSTA.
okay,
But
that's
I
what
would
I wanted
recommend-
clarity
yeah.
on,
Yeah.
because that's
see.
extremely important.
Sure, and it is, and I recommend, as with the penny or any of these, that we would negotiate that interlocal in advance of putting it on the ballot.
Are you talking about the gas tax?
I'm talking about the
Sales
charter,
tax.
charter and
Charter
regional,
county.
charter county and regional transportation system surtax. It's a different section of the statute under which you levy the penny for Pinellas. But it has different requirements and
Yes.
different, I guess, opportunities. For instance, it says the rate can be up to 1%. So you could have it at 1/4% has been indicated in the presentation, whereas you couldn't have it as 1/4% under the penny. So it's just a little bit different. But as you recall, when we were going forward with Greenlight, the interlocal we had there would have just been sharing the proceeds with PSTA. There were not municipalities involved then. So this one, again, it doesn't require the county to share it with any other entity, but it allows us to share it with other entities who would, of course, all be subject to the same limitations in regard to use as set forth in the statute. But again, this one is a little bit more open. It does allow for some maintenance and operation, which is a little bit different than what we're used to with the penny.
Okay, I've got it open, so I'll go ahead and email it to you all.
Thank you.
Thank you for the good legal advice. I just wanted some clarity with all
Always
of
do.
this. Okay, are there any further questions?
Just real quick
Comments?
on the legal aspect, and I know we're really early, but what problem did Hillsborough run into with their transportation surtax?
Are you talking about the more recently imposed? What happened over there is that was a referendum that was brought forward by a citizen group. It was not initiated by the county, and it was done by charter amendment. And as you the section here talks, you can only levy this particular tax if you're a charter county. It was done through a charter amendment, and that charter amendment was very specific as to, and you may have read in the newspaper, as to allocations, certain percentages allocated for certain uses. And it also essentially delegated the administration of those funds to an oversight committee. And what the court there found is that those two aspects of the tax, it usurped the county commission's authority to administer that tax. So while they left the surtax in place, they basically did away with the provisions that, via the charter amendment, allocated those provisions to the specific percentage uses, and it also did away with the authority that was vested in that citizens committee. So this statute is very clear that that authority rests with the county commission, and I believe that's the basis upon which the judge made those findings. Now, you saw the commission went forward and, essentially allocated those funds in accordance with the way the referendum said it. But again, that was the commissioners reacting to what the citizens wanted. The authority lies with the county commission. Those were the problems. Again, the judge threw out those provisions but left the tax in place. Now, I don't know whether we'll see any further litigation as to the efficacy of the surtax itself, but for now, the tax is in place, and the county commission essentially has the authority. I think they're probably going to perhaps rely on the citizen committee for input, which is perfectly appropriate, but the final decision will rest with the county commission.
Thank you.
And just in finality, you talked about the communication process during the summer, and do we have an idea of how we're going to go about doing that?
We do.
Okay.
If you're comfortable with the approach, then we're going to begin tomorrow, and that's to reach out to our municipal partners, to reach out to our different agencies that we've discussed and others, and begin these conversations and really refine our plan, and look at our options and look at the impacts to where when we come back in October, we've had that input. I will also be meeting with you because following this presentation, I'm sure the phones are going to ring, and you're going to be talking to many others, and so we'll make sure we loop back and we get that input from you. And if there's areas that we don't think of and we're not talking to them, please share those, and we'll reach out to them and we'll go meet with them. I make sure we make this a community plan with everybody's input, to where it impacts, because it does impact all of us. So that's the plan. The plan is to get boots on the ground and go and talk to people and see if this really addresses that some of these regional solutions that we think it does.
I think it would be helpful to all of us if you could share who and where you're going to communicate.
Yeah, we can certainly can do
And
that.
whether these are, I assume these will be sunshine meetings?
If we meet with a council or something like that, it certainly will be. If I go meet with, the public works staff at a particular city.
No, I understand that,
There
yeah.
certainly wouldn't be, but we need both, we need both the policies, the policy boards, but we also need, kind of the nuts and bolts public works folks refining and identifying and helping us to refine those projects that really have a regional impact.
Okay.
Yeah, and again, I think there's a lot to do. We're early, but we're not early.
Yeah.
So I'd also like to see the plan with our communications department and any of the partners marketing groups that we have as to how we're going to start unveiling the story well before it's ever finished to our residents. I want them to start engaging in this conversation too, because I think the surveys that we've taken clearly show that our folks say transit and congestion is like a big problem in this area. And I think our businesses have told us the same thing, that we need that to attract and to maintain our businesses and work opportunities for our people. So I think those are two,
Yep.
so we need to start, let's not wait till the plan's finished. Let's start having that community conversation with our groups, resident groups out there too. So if we can start identifying some of those to just start rolling it out, I think it's going to be really important. Knowing that it's a work in progress, that these are drafts, we're really trying to explore because it's, just that survey, I think, tells a big story. And I think we owe it to our residents to explore what we're doing.
It does, and I've met with businesses in the time that I've been here. I mean, workforce is the key to economic development nowadays, and as we look at our unemployment rates, making these connections, I mean, it just makes good business sense in addition to the human side. So, yeah, but we can certainly share that and get your input and continue to refine that as we roll this out.
Yeah, we can pick those pilot areas to go try it out on. We've done that already a little bit, so folks are wanting to hear more about it. I mean, when we go now and we start talking to groups, the eyes don't just glaze over. We're talking transportation and transit. They actually sit up a little bit and start to engage in conversation, which it's a different day today than it was, say, 6, 8, 10 years ago. So, anyway, thank you.
If I can respond to that just briefly. I think you're spot on, and as you know, we're adopting our Advantage Pinellas Long Range Plan in November. And last week, the board voted to approve land use amendments to our countywide plan for these investment corridors to enable local governments to initiate action that would increase densities and intensity of development and enable easier redevelopment in these corridors by making some of the regulatory impediments less of an issue, such as designating an activity center or designating a multimodal corridor. It's going to be up to the local governments to take advantage of the density that we've enabled within these investment corridors. And ultimately, this is coming back to you all as the Countywide Planning Authority to approve the recommendations that we've put forward at Ford Pinellas. But the next 3 months, we're going to be pretty intensive in our conversations with the community, with community groups, with chambers and groups like that on the Advantage Pinellas plan. And this is a key piece of what we would look at in terms of what's a cost feasible or financially feasible element of that long-range transportation plan. So right now, we have a lot of needs, and this conversation will help us identify what might be a portion of those needs that are actually financially feasible that we could advance into some kind of a partnership with the Florida Department of Transportation or with any other partner. And that's critical.
Madam Chair?
Yes.
Thank you. I just have a couple of questions that I would like to address as it relates to the process that we're going through. So we've heard this presentation today, and on page 27, we have some proposed funding options. I'm assuming these funding options that we're talking about, that's just our money, right? It doesn't include any potential matches from or grants from the state or the feds, correct?
That's correct, and that's actually a very good point, because...
I'm not done.
Okay.
You can come back to your
I'll come
point
back.
in just a minute. So my question is, as we go forward, when will this commission, is it your intent, Barry, that we would have the funding conversation in October after you've already had the discussion with our partners?
Correct. We continue to refine the plan. If today you said we're not willing to even look at a sales tax, well then, I'll shift gears and we'll talk about maintaining service.
Okay, that's not where I was going. My point that I would like to make for discussion with us is in putting these funding options here, I've heard over the last couple of months a lot of discussion about the gas tax, the fuel tax option. And then now we've got on here the transportation sales surtax and an ad valorem tax. And I would be very curious to know, when you talk about the transportation sales surtax, you've got a half cent, a quarter cent. Is it possible by the time we come back in October that you could just add in there what it would be if it was a full cent, and then give us the opportunity to make a decision about, because the way I'm looking at this, it kind of sounds like we might move forward prepared to implement the fuel tax, but then also consider a referendum, and I'd like to figure out if it might be more amenable to consider a full penny instead of a half cent and a quarter cent and take off the fuel tax. Because we all know the fuel tax is not sustainable. And it's really just a Band-Aid,
Well, it's-
in my opinion.
We certainly, obviously, if you take, you put a full cent on there, you double the amount of revenue that's available. So it's a significant amount of money. We certainly could address all of those particular needs, how we divide that up. We've also modeled out the local option sales tax in terms of maintaining the existing infrastructure with that, using the current split. If we're able to do a sales tax and we're able to maintain this enhanced level of service, well, then the local option fuel tax, minor modifications to that, we can maintain our existing infrastructure into the future, 2030 and beyond. So we do have those models. We can certainly put those on as different funding models and have that discussion. But we've kind of played around with different ones. I think we were just trying to get a sense from the commission of where we're at today, and we can certainly add that.
I just think it would be interesting to see if we can make a decision that would take us well into the future, or if we make a decision that in another 5 or 6 years, we're going to have to come back and have this conversation all over again. I mean, you saw the paper today, the tourism numbers are up again. There are people still moving here, and we're talking about creating densities in various parts of our county. I mean, at some point, don't we want to make a decision that really fixes it? Or, I'm just suggesting, it might be good to
Any
have
of the
the
models that we put
information.
out will show that we can maintain this well into the future, so. But we can certainly add that as part of that discussion.
And what's missing from here, fellow T-BARTA member, is the plan that's being drafted as we speak, which would require some
Local match.
local match.
And we have incorporated, and we know that there's gonna be local matches. It's hard to project out something that you don't know what it's gonna be,
I
right?
know, 'cause it's under
And so
study, but
we have projected those costs in here. So for instance, even on some of our capital for buses and things like that within the system, we've put in the cost associated with that. We know we're gonna get some grants. So there's gonna be some offsetting revenues, which is just very hard to pinpoint exactly. So that's the reason we're kind of looking at, if you can get us in this ballpark, we know we're gonna get some grants, we know we're gonna have some matches. So there'll be some offsetting. We wanna make sure that we have sufficient capacity to address all those transportation things, but that's gonna play out over time. We also know that if we gave, we said, okay, here's some money, let's go, implement these priority routes, it's gonna take us, a long time to implement these. And it'll take time for people to get used to writing it and having actually, express service and things like that. Some of this will play out over time. So if you focus, you build that, you do kind of a proof of concept, now all of a sudden you've got good ridership, good service, and then you can expand that into other areas. So, there's some things that we've incorporated in that isn't, okay, we're gonna start at this date, and this date, we're gonna do this, and this date. Some of that will have to play out, and grants are a key part of that. But we know within, like, if we go to the half cent, we know we have sufficient revenue to be able to do matches to some of these more regional projects.
Okay. I want to piggyback on something Commissioner Eggers mentioned earlier that I kind of echoed already, but, since we're looking at the regional plan of doing express lanes and so on, why don't we just go ahead and put it on our radar and study it and be prepared to talk about HOV, express lanes in Pinellas County on certain corridors, and see if we could implement it, make it work, say, on McMillan Booth. I'm not sure we could do it on 19 because of it being federal highway per se. But I think it would be a worthy endeavor in having Ford Pinellas and the Public Works staff for the county take a look at it.
I'll share with you that on Tuesday, I met with Pasco County Economic Development and their planning and transportation staff about the US 19 corridor. They were very interested. They wanted to do some of their due diligence like we've done to look at the demand and the need, and we've already planned out some conceptual express service, transit service options, but they talked about the idea of an express lane or something like that. And I think you can do it in there. The fact is, it's going to be under design for either overpasses or these innovative intersection concepts, at least to the county line. Pasco County is very much interested in that, and as much as they're recruiting businesses and manufacturing and things like that to Pasco County, what they're really getting are rooftops, and they're seeing the percentage of commuters coming into Pinellas and Hillsborough increasing. So that's probably a trend that's going to continue for a good couple of more decades. And I think we need to start looking at some really good transit and transportation options in that corridor, as well as McMullen Booth, because we know in East Lake Road that their population is shifting east. And if they're commuting into our county, that's why McMullen Booth and East Lake are so congested. But I think it's a two-corridor strategy we need to look at.
And the beauty of technology now is you don't necessarily have to have a concrete barrier to separate your high occupancy vehicle lane from the rest of the population, because you have technology that can monitor that.
Right.
Commissioner Justice?
Thank you, Madam Chair. And as we're talking about audiences and people to talk to, how does our legislative delegation fit into this? And as we have legislators that are coming into positions of authority and influence, especially in North County and Pasco, those are conversations I would think that we'd want to be having with them and see where there's areas that they have an interest that we can,
Sure.
Utilize.
I have a meeting tomorrow with Senator Brandis and next week with Representative Sprouse and several others. And I think I'm going to introduce the strategy without the specifics of funding options and things like that, but that we're working together as partners and get some reaction from them and some guidance from them. I already had one meeting with Representative Webb earlier this week, and she was very supportive and enthusiastic, so we'll just see how that conversation goes.
But as we talk about, for example, pilot HOV lanes on McMullen Booth in North County, that certainly might be something that they have an interest in helping fund
Absolutely.
sooner rather than later.
And of course, that conversation, since you mentioned PSTA at 1 mil, needs to talk about the special act and opening up the ability to up that millage.
We heard loud and clear back in January from the participants at that funding workshop that there was no silver bullet, that it was going to take an array of strategies and solutions. And I think that's what this partnership is bringing to you is there's not a silver bullet. There's a number of things we're going to have to look at because it's a really integrated set of strategies. And if you're going to tackle things like housing and transportation and redevelopment and economic development, you've got to look at all the tools in your toolbox.
I agree.
Madam Chair, I just want to speak one moment to that, because I've heard you say that before about opening up the special act. The legislature has clearly sent a message that they are not interested in allowing local governments to do any taxation on their own. And I would be very hesitant to want to open up that special act. Bad things happen when you open up an existing piece of legislation. And the other piece is they also have sent a very strong message that they're very interested in regional discussions as it relates to transportation and the transportation funding. And they want all of the projects coming in from the region for financial assistance from the legislature. They want it to flow through TBARDA. And the way they appropriated their dollars for TBARDA this year is a great example of that, because there were many projects from another part of our region that they had made an ask of the legislature, and they put it all in one big pot and filtered it through TBARDA. So please keep that in mind as we move forward, because I don't think our citizens would have I don't think it would bode well for any of us if all of us started asking for additional increases in our levies, or, we need to work together on our legislative request, in my opinion.
I don't disagree with you. But it was on the presentation today, and I did want to at least point it out. And, how you can limit a bus system's revenue by, special act is just difficult to comprehend, because how long has that special act been in place, Brad? 74s, 80s, yeah?
Yeah.
And it's
On top of
fundamentally
that-
unfair.
On top of that, we have 7 areas in our county that don't even participate in the ad valorem, so that makes it difficult as well.
Commissioner?
Yes, sir.
Yeah, I mean, I get this conversation. I think they're wanting, I mean, first of all, I like the comment that was made about this is an incremental growth and a change that we currently have to where we're hoping to be in 10 years. And I know people would argue, and probably correctly, that we are crawling right now, crawl, walk, run, that we got to be careful because we want to make sure that our residents come along with us and see the value, as you said, in the story and the actual results that are unfolding that really buy people into that. So I think that's really important. And the other part of, we're talking about special acts. I know we have some of those up in North County with our FIXA groups, and there's an element of capping these fees or these rates so that it's more of a resident-driven change. It's not necessarily a group like us that's asking for a change, but that residents are saying, and I'm not sure that they are saying that yet, frankly, when we have 1.5% of our residents that are using transit. There's not an people screaming and yelling, I guess, to say change that cap. So I think we're doing it the right way. We've now got, I think that we're doing, our referendums are going to be on our elected years, the main years, state elected, or on even numbered years are not going to be on off years. I think that's trying to get more people involved in the process. So I think it's all healthy, and if we do our job of telling the story and getting it out there, what we're trying to do, based on what we're hearing from our residents, again, I think it's resident-driven. To your point about those surveys, it's so critical that we've got those things that we can go talk to our legislators about. This is coming. We want more transportation options. So I think this is a good thing. I mean, I think everything we're doing is really a positive direction, but I'd be careful not to be running before we walk. So I think that what you've put on here at ½ cent is a good thing to be discussing as we go forward.
Commissioner Welch.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Great conversation. I'm agreeing with all my colleagues. And I think you defined it well. All the options were on the table here. But if you ever watched The Matrix, you know what happened when Neo took the red pill. And you realize you're in the real world. And there are certain things that just are not going to fly. And absolutely everyone should be in PSTA, Commissioner Long. Every community should be in PSTA. That there shouldn't be a cap that we can't change, but the reality is that's not going to change. There's some things on here that make sense and that solve the problem for transit and transportation countywide, and I think after the conversation that's where we're going to end up being. But I think at this point, I think those kind of the way it should be issues, the reality is we've got to be strategic about what choice we make. And really what Hillsborough did really gives me a lot of optimism. If we have that conversation, Commissioner Eggers and everybody from Tarpon and Tierra Verde understands what's in it for them and why this is a good investment, I really see the solution here as we work through that process. So I agree with everybody and understand why you brought that up, but I think there's a big dose of reality, just given our experience. The legislature, all parts of this county, I think, and yes, I'm actually saying this, but I think it was very smart that rail is not a part of this, because that's not a battle we need to fight. BRT can bring a lot of the same benefits, and we're already moving down that path. So I just think strategically we're making all the right moves so far. The teamwork between the three entities is something that I haven't seen here before, and that's very refreshing to see. I'm just really enthusiastic about where we are now, and looking forward to the conversations and what you hear back from the community and from the cities.
I'll just open it up if anybody has public.
Can you tell me the 8 cities that have, there's Raheem, the 8 cities that have responded?
And again, some of the responses have been very general, like we need general things, and some of them have been very specific, like St. Pete's most recent response.
Okay.
We're working together with them. So the ones that have responded as of this week is Clearwater, Dunedin, Indian Shores, North Reddington Beach, South Pasadena, St. Pete Beach, St. Pete, and Treasure Island are the ones that have responded. But we will be reaching out to them individually after this meeting.
And TI was the last one?
TI was the last
Okay.
one.
Thank you.
Anything else?
I guess it's not safe to say that the rest of them don't have any needs, right?
We will certainly reach out
Just
and
kidding.
make sure that we meet with them. Well, I think, one, I appreciate the comment about the teamwork because, the people behind me here have really worked to try to refine that, but not just them, but their staffs back in their respective agencies, trying to look at priorities, trying to look at what makes sense to where we have that balance to where something that we can show results and that can actually deliver results for our citizens, both in terms of connections and safer transportation and making a transportation system that works, where you can get from point A to point B without setting in traffic. So there's a lot of benefit into this, but again, it goes with the hard work that from the different agencies and their staff. So I certainly do appreciate the partnership. I appreciate all the help that they've provided in trying to bring this into something where we can have a community conversation. So,
And, Madam Chair, and so Barry, might it be possible in one of your future meetings with Brad and with Whit that you could invite David Green from T-BARTA to just come and give some input with regard to the big picture there, so that you have the full picture? Because in this, I see that missing element.
yes, you bet. I went over and did talk to David. I kind of get that, but yes, we can absolutely incorporate them in. They are a key partner as we talk about these regional projects, and that becomes a key funding piece for those local matches.
Thank you.
Okay, very good. As our custom, if there's any citizens who would like to comment at this point, you're more than welcome to come up and make any comments.
Yeah, I mean, I think I would hope that there's been some thought out there from our partners that I can see in the room here, just some reflection maybe on, not necessarily a strong point or a good point, but just something that you might have picked up today that I think is important to hear back. Oh, hey, there you go.
Good morning.
Good morning, Commissioners. Darrell Henderson, Clearwater Regional Chamber of Commerce. I want to thank you all for your comments regarding the State Road 60 corridor. As was mentioned, tourism continues to rise. State Road, I like what the county is going to be doing going forward at the Belcher Road, State Road 60 intersection. And I would just remind you to continue to keep State Road 60 from Tampa International Airport to Clearwater Beach as a high priority. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Do you need them to fill out a card for the record? Okay. If you'll make sure anybody does that. Thank you, Darrell.
Good morning.
Good morning.
Morning.
Carol Strickland, Community Development Director for City of Largo. I did want to let the commission know that we did take a staff report to the Largo City Commission based upon the request for information and priority, and have information from our City Commission to give you. So we're very interested in engaging in the conversation as a partner.
Awesome.
Thank you.
Thank you, Carol. Anyone else? Okay, well, thank you all in the audience for being present here today. Thank you to our partners for working together and bringing forth an excellent presentation. And we will now move on to our agenda briefing. I am going to take a 5-minute break so the room can clear and that we can get this loaded and ready.
It's in this room?
Back in session, and we are going to now do our agenda briefing.
John Wick.
So item 1 through 4 are presentations. You can see listed on your agenda. Items 5 through 27 are different filings and reports. I'm sorry, that's the consent agenda. Item 5 through 16 are different filings and reports. Item 17 is award of a bid for KOBO Utility Corporation for navigational aids at the Clearwater International Airport. This is the sole but lowest and responsible bidder. 18 and 19 are receipt and file. 20 is a contract for our 20 through 22 countywide pavement management preservation projects. This is to Ajax Paving. And this is a small business enterprise program. Number 21 is an award of bid to Comex and Concrete on Call for concrete mixed material, and this is done through the Tampa Bay Area Purchasing Cooperative. 22 is an award of a bid to ISS Facility this is for bridge tending services. Just looking for any questions. 23 is an award of a bid to Quinn Construction for the Park Boulevard Drawbridge Machinery Rehabilitation Project.
Under items 24 and 25, these are 2 notices of new lawsuit. These are negligence actions.
Item 26 and 27 are receipt and file reports. 28 is, this actually kind of delayed coming, but this is the interlocal agreement between the Construction Licensing Board and Pinellas County Commissioners for us to provide the services to the Construction Licensing Board, now that it's a county agency. 29 is funding recommendation. This is Edward Byrne Memorial Justice Grant Assistance Program. And it's a grant to pass through money. 30 is resolution establishing the level of budgetary control within the county's financial system. Bill is available to answer any questions you may have regarding what this accomplishes. Questions?
Madam Chair,
Yes.
can we just ask Bill or you, Barry, just tell us what the changes are that might
Yeah,
be
they'll
in
come
here?
up and we'll walk
Our
through that.
citizens will know.
I'm gonna ask Bill to do it since he's got it down to a science and
I know he does.
Good morning, Commissioners. Bill Berger with the Office of Management and Budget. This is doing 2 things. One, it's codifying in a more official way the level of budgetary control that already existed. It's something that's been part of the budget document and part of the budget adoption process each year. But as we're looking at the proposed change that's associated with this, there was a recognition that we probably should be having you adopt that by resolution based on what the statutory guidance is. So that's part of what you're doing here. The other piece is the change that we're proposing. The change is really a financial accounting change, and that's based on the fact that right now, the budgetary control that we have within departments is set so that any expenses within personal services, operating, capital, and grants and aids accounts are all fungible. So in other words, if you had a position that was budgeted and you had $50,000 for that position and it was vacant for half the year and you had $25,000 left and you needed to use a RAND or a PSP, contractor in order to be able to fulfill the needs of the departments, you would actually be able to use that $25,000 for that operating expense without having to come forward for a budget amendment. That's been in place since the implementation of OPUS back in 2011. What we're proposing to do is actually bring into that same grouping of accounts our debt service accounts. And the debt service accounts are being proposed to be brought in there because what's been happening is there have been periodically very, very small budget amendments. I have one example here that was for $300 a couple of years ago. And what happens is, because those debt service accounts are segregated separately, if there was an unanticipated change in what's hitting those debt service accounts, we would have to come forward with a budget amendment, which costs, quite frankly, more money to actually process administratively than the amount of the budget amendment itself. So it's really trying to introduce an additional efficiency for something that's become really ministerial in terms of approval. One of the other changes that we experienced last year was there was the implementation of a new GASB regulation to change the way that leases and rentals on a long-term basis are handled within financial accounting. And so what happens is, instead of it being classified as operating expenses, they're not classified as debt service if they're more than 1 year. As a result of that change, we actually had to process a budget amendment last year and would have another one this year, simply because of the fact that it wasn't budgeted that way, because we didn't know that that regulation was coming forward in that form. So those are the major elements of that. There is some distinction here that's spoken to regarding debt service associated with things like bonds and things that are like bonds. So if we have bonds out in the marketplace or any kind of a formal borrowing in the private marketplace, those will be accounted for in a separate debt service fund, just like they are today in the utilities service fund. And then if we have something that's an internal borrowing, if we choose that as a mechanism instead of going out to market because it may be cheaper or more efficient for us to do that, those would also not be subject to that flexibility. And we would do that because those types of formal borrowings, there are additional obligations associated with those, and it's not appropriate to have those funds be things that could be mixed and matched. So that's the summary. It's going into a whole lot more detail than we would typically talk about with you in terms of financial accounting. But we worked very hard with the county attorney's office and particularly the clerk's office to make sure that we're all on the same page with respect to how this would work, and we're all comfortable that this is something that's appropriate and doesn't put us at risk and isn't something that's that is something that's in the best interest of the taxpayers.
Excellent. Thank you.
You're welcome.
Commissioner?
Thank you. So, and I don't know what dollar amount we're talking about, but you said that any long-term leases we have now count as debt versus operating?
Correct.
Is that also, and also it factors into when we talk about the pension liability, how we all, that change, it was several years ago that we count that more in. Does it factor into our debt ratio that we talk about at all? Is it enough significant of a dollar amount or in our budget?
It's not significant enough to have an impact on the debt service coverage ratios that we need for our bonds. It is an impact, but it's not a measurable impact in terms of order of magnitude.
Yeah, okay. I didn't think the dollar amount would reach that, but I was just curious.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Okay.
Thank
Any
you.
other questions? Thank you, Bill.
And you can stay up though, actually, because the next item
Yeah,
is
you
a
might as well.
resolution on the, this changes our travel expenses up. And so I think we brought back to you some of the updated policies regarding our travel reimbursement policy, and so this would effectuate those changes.
Good morning, I'm Erin Dowie. I'm with the Office of Management and Budget. I've been spearheading the revision of the travel policy, and that's what the resolution is for, is just to bring back the recommendations and actually do the hard revisions of the policy. And that's just basically how the resolution, the purpose of the resolution. So just a little bit of the background of that. A couple summers ago, there were some questions about the travel policy. We put together some focus groups with the departments, worked with Clerks Finance as well as the county attorney, looked at our peer counties and some of the best practices that they're doing to bring the recommendations. So then we did all the work of the revisions since January. We had that with the Council of Clerks Finance as well as the county attorney to make sure all of the changes were made. We also pulled in risk management to make sure they looked at some of the policy things, because there were things in there that were outdated, and we wanted to make sure that we were covering some of the things that we were going to take out. So I'm really excited about it because it's going to help the users as well as cover some of the gray areas that were in there, such as commuting mileage, post of duty. We're going to put some references in there so there's not a lot of hard dollars, so it'll have long-term sustainability. And as well as administrative updates, so if things change the way that we travel, we want to add a new expenditure that's reimbursable, or we want to look at some of the rate changes that don't align with maybe the state. We can, the policy now allows us to do that in council with the county attorney as well as Clerks Finance.
Question.
Commissioner Eggerson, Commissioner Long.
Yeah, I was looking real quickly at the marked up versus clean version. They look the same.
I don't see any markup.
So I didn't know if there was a significant number of changes, or did they all occur in that last paragraph?
It's probably because of the track changes on there. I'll make sure for Tuesday, any of those are on there. It does look like spaghetti, honestly.
Okay, well,
with
this
all the
one's very
changes.
clean, looks
Yeah.
exactly alike, so, okay.
Changes don't show
So if
up.
you could make those
Absolutely.
addition, thank you.
Well, I was just going to suggest that maybe you could put them in red so that they stand out to us when we're looking at it on our iPads. And the other thing that I was curious about is, does the policy still require us, and this is from some time ago, so it may have changed and I don't know it because Doyle always does these things for me anyway. Does it still require you to do all of your travel through a travel agent?
It does not. So that was one of the clarifications that we worked with purchasing on with the contract. It's a recommendation to utilize them specifically for things like airfare due to the changes, canceled flights, different things like that, delays, missing connecting flights. So you have just the reimbursement and the insurance with that. But that is clarified in the changes, that it's a recommendation.
Thank you.
Absolutely.
Commissioner Justice.
Thank you, Madam Chair. I'm glad you asked about the travel agent, because that was always an interesting thing when we were, didn't know we had a travel agent. The one part I saw in there was that we have access, because I wasn't aware of this, that the county has access to the state rental car contract.
We actually, if rentals are used, we prefer them to go through that contract because of the insurance limits and the fees and the rates associated with it.
So do we have, does the state, and when we were with the state, we had a state contract with Avis and the rates were dramatically lower than anybody else. Is that what we have? I mean, is that what we're offering?
Enterprise.
Oh, it's Enterprise now?
Yeah.
And we don't have a large volume of people that are utilizing rental cars, and there is actually a written justification required to use that. Most of the time, if it's beyond the local limits, they're going to be flying. So we don't have that high volume, but we wanted to make sure that we pointed them to that contract.
So I have another question. Oh.
And how is our, I'm sorry, how is our, maybe you don't know this, our fleet of county vehicles? Because when I've gone to a conference or something, I've used the county vehicle. And last time they said that one was at the end of its days and they wouldn't let me leave the county with it. So I didn't know how our fleet was and that kind of thing.
That doesn't sound very safe.
It's probably.
It doesn't, that's not something I could obviously speak to.
Okay.
Oh, yuck.
Because I haven't had a chance to read this, well, first of all, I want to commend you on a lot of hard lifting and work on this and making the changes and trying to make it easier for everybody to understand it. Do all county employees take the sales tax registration with them so that they avoid paying sales tax when they're in the state of Florida?
Yes, ma'am, and that's one of the things we added to this was a whole section on sales tax exemption, pointing them to our certificate. But with the travel coordinators that are designated in a lot of the departments, they are trained on when they're booking that to send it, and we have a lot of the procedures, which is some of the follow-up items, is to work with the departments on what that procedure looks like to ensure that we're getting sales tax. But on the back end, when the travel is being audited and reviewed for reimbursement, they're looking at sales tax being paid specifically within Florida. It gets a little touchy if you're going out of state, if they're going to honor that. But that's something that procedurally with the follow-up that we'll work with the departments to make sure that they have that in their individual procedures. But that was a section that was added specifically to address that.
Okay, 'cause I think that is important, so. And I noticed that just in the recommendations, because that was what I pulled up, that explore the availability of government room rates. I mean, that should be almost a requirement. Government room rates are almost always cheaper than any option.
But a lot of times the hotels have a federal rate and a state rate, but they do not have a local rate. I mean, that's a question you have to ask before you assume that the state or federal rate will be given.
So the
Good
guidance.
point, because I found that on some booking sites, yep.
Well, the guidance of the policy is to use the most economical means or method of travel, and looking at lodging rates is at the forefront of that. When we looked at we looked at the T-BARTA travel policy actually, and that was one of the things that they had in there that we wanted to make sure we aligned with, but we codified it in here to first seek the government rates, but sometimes when you have a conference, they have booking rates that are discounted for the individuals to attend. So it's all about looking at the different rates to make sure we're being fiscally responsible. And then sometimes you have overbooking and you have to go down a couple miles away, and then it just depends on regionally where they're at and what's available to them.
Okay. Anyone else? Commissioner Long?
Yes. So I have a couple questions. Number one, the policy conference for FAC is in the Panhandle this year. So are you saying that we have the availability to rent a car, or do we use a county vehicle?
So one of the provisions in here that was actually previously used is looking at it always goes back to most economical means. So if you're looking at your mileage reimbursement, it's going to be more than typically a car rental. You're going to weigh those options. Even flights, per se, if you can get a less expensive flight to fly out there versus driving or renting a car, we're going to point you to that option. Does that answer your question?
Well, kind of, sort of, except you can't go from here to there by air, but you can go to Tallahassee and then rent a car and go. So by the time that you add all that up, so my point in asking was, could we rent or can we use the county vehicle? Does it matter to?
You have the option.
Okay, that's all I need to know. My second question is, was there any consideration given for those folks who end up traveling outside the borders of the United States to upgrade their ticket to a business class?
There is, in the airfare section, there is a lot speaking to appointing authority justification. But we were very careful to put a lot of extra detailed, because we have a very robust policy.
You have a what?
We have a very robust policy in comparing it with our peers. So we've covered a lot of bases, but we were careful to make sure the longevity, we didn't get too detailed. But for anything such as upgrading to a business class or something that's not coach, all of that is justifiable with an appointing authority justification. So if somebody's going to be traveling for 9 hours, you don't want them sitting in the middle of the seat and they have to go do work for an extended period of time. We want to make sure that we're being fiscally responsible, but as well, making sure that we are taking care of our employees that are doing the work for us.
Thank you so much for that common sense approach. It has always just boggled my mind that you could require someone to travel for 10 hours in this crampy little seat, get there and hit the ground running and think you're going to be, all rested and able to go. So thank you for that. I appreciate it very much. Okay, that's the end of my story. What are you laughing at me for?
I think he was talking to Charlie.
I think both of us.
Anyone else? Thank you very much.
All right, thank you.
Good job.
Okay, the next three items are lease agreements with facilities up in Palm Harbor. And as you know, we'll be modifying the lease agreements with all of the facilities. And the big change there is that the county maintains those facilities henceforth. Item 35 is a lease agreement with Gulf Coast Legal Services for office space at the Lowman Exchange. And 36 is a second amendment to a lease agreement with Community Law Program for the 501 building. Next, item 37 is a third agreement to third amendment to an agreement with Motorola Services for services pertaining to the multi-site tower replacement project. This was a non-competitive request that was vetted through our non-compete committee in May, and the idea is obviously we've got a significant investment in Motorola. These rates are published rates, and so therefore it was beneficial for us to pursue this route. 38 is a non-compete agreement with Vertex Data Utility Services. This is currently our customer support network for at utilities. We looked at either going out for services or upgrading the existing service, and it was most beneficial for us to continue through with the existing service, but utilizing a different contract mechanism and upgrade those services. Item 39 is an increase to a contract with Core and Main LP for water meter box and accessories. And this request is to increase the contract by $320,000. Is that correct, Raheem? 300. Okay. Then I'll have some reports at the meeting for item 40.
Under 41, this is a request to authorize litigation in a housing discrimination case that arose out of an investigation by your Office of Human Rights. 42 is a request to initiate an eviction action against a tenant at the Star Center. 43 is a request to ratify litigation that has already been filed with the chair's consent. We took that action due to timing constraints. This is to add a count in our litigation in regard to the sheriff's headquarters. We added the surety in as a party on the advice of outside counsel. 44 relates to the confidential memorandum, which I see you have all had an opportunity to review. If anybody has any questions in that regard, I would ask you to contact me outside of this meeting. 44 under miscellaneous, I will tell you now, I don't anticipate making any announcements on Tuesday. Some of you I've had the opportunity to discuss in one-on-one meetings, but we have had 2 lawsuits filed against the county by Pepper Construction. I know that some of you have had contact from representatives of Pepper. I would encourage you, due to the active litigation at this point, to refer any inquiries to me. And also wanted to inform you that we have received an appeal on the Canine Estates case, where the your Board of Adjustment and Appeals denied their request to continue operating.
And that appeal is to the local circuit court?
Well, we actually received more than just an appeal. What we received was an appeal of the Board of Adjustment and Appeals action. So yes, that will go to the circuit court acting in its appellate capacity. We also received an independent lawsuit, which is an action you can file. It's a cause of action created by Chapter 163 of the Florida statutes, which is essentially your Growth Management Act. They are alleging that we are attempting to prohibit them from acting in a manner that they deem to be consistent with our comprehensive planning codes. Obviously, we do not deem that activity to be consistent with our land development regulations. So 2 separate lawsuits, but really trying to get at the same thing, which is to allow them to continue operating.
Communication with them?
With their lawyers.
I understand. Us communicating with anybody there?
My suggestion would be, if it involves a party, which would obviously be the folks running the Canine Estates, the operation up there, to refer it to my office. I know that you all have had some contact from citizens. They're not parties to the litigation, but I would certainly discourage any discussion with the parties to the litigation.
Okay.
And just to give you all a bit more reference, I know that some members from my staff sat down with some members from Barry's staff yesterday just to make sure we were all on the same page as to how we were going to handle this case moving forward, as far as any activities we might undertake as in code enforcement, or just to strategizing on the litigation.
I have questions about number 41. Should I just ask you privately?
Certainly, yeah.
Okay. And then my next question was, can you please tell us where we are? I know I asked you this when we spoke, I guess it was yesterday, but where are we with the horses riding in the water?
I need to get a better update from you. Our attorney that's been working on that's been out of the office and just came back today. So give me a day or 2 and I'll get you an update on that.
And you'll get, okay, great, thank you.
Item 46 are the revisions to the WorkNet Pinellas bylaws, previously discussed.
Is there anything we need to talk about?
Is there something new in there?
I don't think it's in there, but we can certainly
Need it in there.
Well, I mean, obviously, the main thing is it changes the number, okay? It also changes the, I'm going to get this wrong, but the
we talked about changing whether that the county commission would have
The
final
changes.
approval on the CEO and the attorney.
I have had that discussion with a couple of you individually that I've had this conversation with, but certainly the Department of Labor in their report was very strong that, no, counties, you have absolute authority over the bylaws. Of course, what's one of the changes proposed in here is to create the committees to deal with the review of the executive director and legal counsel for CareerSource. One of the things I had suggested to a couple of you just individually in conversation is that if we wanted to make those provisions stronger, we could make one or more of those individuals, be it the lawyer and the executive director, subject to the approval of the county commission. That would be a change to what's in here, but it would certainly give you even greater authority over the selection of executive director and legal counsel, should you decide that's something that you want to undertake.
Well, I mean, I'm only one person, but I certainly think since we have a lot of responsibility that we now know we have, that we did not know we had, it would behoove us to put our finger on the pulse of that and add that in there, that that's what we want. Otherwise, what's the point?
And I think based on conversations that I've heard here from many of you, individuals that occupied those roles have created some heartburn, I think, in regard to some of the activities there. So perhaps it is a change that you might wish to consider.
So, Madam Chair, do we do that now at agenda review, or, because I totally support what Commissioner
My
Long said.
suggestion would be to discuss it at the meeting so that you could actually vote on it and take action. It is not this was the change to increase the membership. I think it was from 31 to 33, so that the board can maintain the required balance, but also add the additional elected official, which is a school board member. So that was necessary. This would be another change. It would have to go back to CareerSource, of course, and get approved. But, you know, really at the end of the day, the bylaws are the county commissions to approve.
If you look at section 11.
Commissioner
talks about
Gerard.
Yeah.
Chief executive.
I think they're expecting to see an amendment to the bylaws that says that we have final approval. But if we changed it next week, would we have to bring it back again for another
What
vote?
we could do, if you all are interested in discussing that change, we'll go ahead and write something up and get it here so that you can take a look at it and approve that version, if that's what I'm hearing.
Yes.
I think so.
Sure.
Would we, Madam Chair, would we discuss that change Tuesday and then bring it back to another meeting for a final vote, or would we actually?
I think you can make that change on Tuesday. Now, you need to send it back to CareerSource for them to approve. But again, the regulations that put these workforce boards into place do give you all final authority over the bylaws.
Well, then,
Why would it have to go back to them?
I'm sorry, on a practical nature of how we would actually operate, would that be a veto of the board, C-SPAN board's approval of an executive director, or would that be us selecting an executive? How would that actually?
I think it would be the
That's why I'm
final
wondering if we need some
approval.
time to.
It would be a veto.
And maybe you could characterize it as, you know, their selection would be conditioned upon final approval of the Board of County Commissioners. We could work out some language that wouldn't necessarily put this board in the position of having to interview or undertake the RFP process. I do understand CareerSource to be undertaking an RFP process for legal counsel right now. In fact, I have shared some documents that the county has used in the past with Jennifer Brackney, documents that we've used for, I think it was bond counsel, disclosure counsel, some of the legal services that we have gone out to RFP on. I did share those documents with her, so my understanding is they're proceeding forward with an RFP for legal counsel. You know, so my suggestion, you know, subject to further discussion with you all, would be that you let them undertake that process, but make it all contingent upon BCC approval.
Yeah, and if I could just say, they're
BCC approval.
Approval, okay.
they're waiting for us. I mean, they're holding things back until they get the final bylaws version from us. So if we could move it along,
Okay.
rather than bouncing it back and forth, that would be great.
Yeah, and I haven't looked through this closely either, but I understand that subject to final approval. What about the reverse part? If we see a problem and we want to remove somebody, that's not That's not is it stepping in and saying to that board that we would like for them to consider the removal and let them look at it first, or then bring it to us? Or do we just take unilateral on the removal part? I mean, I understand what you said on the hiring, so.
Why don't you let us take a look at the bylaws between now and Tuesday, and we can draft up some language that would give you that as an alternative, give you the absolute control of the selection of the executive director and legal counsel as an alternative, and we can bring that to you on Tuesday, and you can take a vote on it on then.
Okay. Thank you.
It would have made life a lot easier.
I'll say.
And item 47 is the appointment, as an appointment for the board of directors. This is the.
It's just one.
I'd have to look up who the appointment is for.
It's just one.
Yeah.
And then item 48 is a resolution approving issuance of Housing Finance Authority multifamily housing revenue bonds of $9.6 million.
Could you tell us where this project's located?
Jake, do you know?
And also, I'm
City.
not familiar with SP Pinellas One LLC. I tried to look up who the president was, but.
We can get that, I think it's.
Palmetto Point Apartments.
Yeah, it's,
Bruce?
looks like Pinellas Park. Here he comes.
I think Bruce has some knowledge. Hey, thank you.
Good morning, Bruce Bussey, Community Development Manager. This project's located in Pinellas Park on the 49th Street. I'm not sure about the cross-section, I'll have to get that to you. SP Financial is Southport Financial. They are the same development entity that built Garden Trail Apartments just north of downtown Clearwater that you might be familiar with. I'll send you the exact address.
Okay. Thank you, Bruce.
Kind of just a side note that Jake pointed out the other day, $9.6 million, 82 units. That's $230,000 per unit.
Wow.
So that kind of highlights the difficulty in addressing our affordable housing needs.
78th Avenue North and 49th Street.
Where is it? Really?
78th Avenue North and 49th Street.
Thank you.
You're welcome. Just north of Park Boulevard.
Item 49 will be on the proposed 2020 budget. 50 public comment. 51 is an appointment to the Construction Licensing Board. This is the North County Building Official. 52 is an appointment to Feather Sound Community Services District, Commissioner Gerard. And 53 is a MSTU item brought forth by Commissioner Gerard for Largo Youth. We actually met with them, and they found kind of a compromise on what we would fund for capital stuff. And then they're working with them for other grant opportunities for uniforms.
And does this cover the compromise?
This covers the compromise. And they're also going to work with the YMCA regarding some of the field issues, because that falls under our current agreement with the Y.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I was a little concerned about with the name that it was a city function. I was told that it's really for an unincorporated area, so I'm
So
Ridgecrest Baskets.
yeah.
So the memo has 2,000 for field equipment, 9,000 for player equipment, and 20,000 for uniforms. Are we not doing all of that?
No.
No, we're doing.
It looks like it's
That was their
7,300.
original ask.
It was original, yeah.
So we're not doing the uniforms?
No.
That's
Okay,
correct.
because I was a
Yeah, I
little
didn't know.
concerned about that.
It's, yeah, I mean,
Because that's still the memo that's on our,
we have a.
it's just part of it.
Yeah.
okay.
It's minus the uniforms and a little bit more, I think.
Let's see, player equipment.
Equipment
So
and some
under the
uniforms.
third paragraph, the partial funding request would be $7,300.
Oh, you're right. Very good.
Okay.
Probably read it all the way to the end.
And they've met with them, and they're supportive of this change. And Brian actually got to work on his first project and learned that that's where he grew up playing football, so within that program. We have a number of public hearings. So first public hearing is a resolution updating the maximum towing rate schedules previously raised.
Can I ask some questions on that? So when I saw that, I contacted some of the towers just to see if they were okay with it, because I don't know if I was on that brought it to you, several did, but, because they had talked to me about it a long time ago, that the rates hadn't been increased. And they brought to my attention that Polk County just did it, and according to this, it says that we looked at all the other counties to be comparable. But I just looked at Polk County's ordinance, and it's not that comparable. So in Class A, for the trespass, we're proposing 110, where Polk is 125. On Class B, it's 200 to 250 comparison. Class C is a 300 to 450 comparison. Their mileage is, ours is proposed at $4, and they changed theirs on their classes to $6, $7, and $9 per mile. And so if that's just one that I'm looking at Polk County, I'm just curious if we didn't look at Polk County, or
Sure,
given
they
that
looked at
Polk
a number,
County
but
is.
I'll invite Lourdes up to.
So, yeah, so I'm just curious, and so when I sent it out to them and asked them if they were okay, I don't know if they even knew it was on the agenda. It didn't appear that they knew it was on the agenda, so I just asked them, and that's kind of what I got pretty quickly.
Yeah, Lourdes Benedict,
back.
Assistant County Administrator, and I also have Doug Templeton, who did most of the work on this. We did compare to Polk. I think you said this just happened?
I believe it's new, but I've got a copy. I'm happy to send it to you.
When we did the board memo to everyone, giving all the comparisons, it was on March 29th, so that might be something we need to look at if it was more current than that.
Okay, because
so
I
we
know
can do
most of
that.
the counties in the region have not changed their rates, and I know they've been advocating to get the rates changed because it's been so many years. And I'm just not sure where we made our decision or how, or if everybody's going to change their rates, you know, are we going to look at this a year later and say, well, everybody else changed them higher and went like Polk did. We're significantly lower at the $4 mileage compared to $6, $7, $8, and $9 mileage. And you're up to a difference of $150,000 on the trespass, or $150 on the trespass. And not that I'm saying I want to, spend more money, but if we're going to be comparable, that doesn't seem very comparable. So it's just my question. So if it's a new ordinance, I'm happy to forward it to you so you have it, and you may be hearing from the
look
towing
at it just to make
folks.
sure, but we had some meetings with the towing companies. I believe we had about 14 show up a couple of years ago. And Doug reached out, I believe, yesterday to the association to let them know this is going to be on the agenda for next Tuesday.
Okay.
Yeah, and I think your point about when you check with these other communities, finding out when they last changed them would be maybe like, well, we haven't changed them for 20 years. Well, they're likely to change it in the next year or two, so it'd be nice to know. You may have that information already, so.
Do you have more information, Doug? Go ahead.
Do you want it now? Go ahead. Go ahead, Doug.
Doug Templeton, Operations Manager with Consumer Protection. So we did look at the different fees. We did compare Polk. I'm aware of the 125 for them. What we want to do is the ordinance was in place and put in place in 2000, and so there have not been any adjustments to those fees during that time period. So we do feel that there is a need for an incremental adjustment when comparing that. But we also looked at Pasco. Last year, actually, they were, I believe, $105. They recently went to $115, so they did have an adjustment. We looked at Hillsborough, we looked at Manatee, Polk. We also looked at Palm Beach, Miami-Dade, Broward. And those currently were at the lower end, yes. What we were looking at for the Class A vehicle, there's 4 classes in Pinellas County. You have A, B, C, and D. Our current fees are $100 for A, $200 B, $300 for C, $400 for D. B through D we found were actually quite higher, or in line or higher than most of those other jurisdictions. So, but the Class A was on the lower end. So if we were to increase by 10%, as we're recommending to 110, that would put us more in line, not at the top, not at the bottom. And we also are recommending some other adjustments there for the mileage. When you look at, and I will say Polk's towards the higher end on some of those fees, compared to some of those other jurisdictions. So again, the mileage fees that we're looking at are $3 across all of our classifications currently. We're recommending going to $4. The different jurisdictions have anywhere from $3 to $6, and some of those vary in the different classes within those. And then we're also looking at a storage fee adjustment there, which would put us in line with pretty much all those jurisdictions. They're currently at 25, we're at 20, so for a $5 adjustment there, that would put us in line with all of them. So we wanted to, minimize any major impacts for citizens and the adjustments that these fees would cause, but also allow for that increase for tow operators since there haven't been adjustments over time. So we did consider those other areas as well, and we're looking kind of to find a balance between those.
Okay.
It looks like we are still on the low end, though, even with the adjustment to 110. It looks like the trend is to 125
For the base tow fee.
for the base tow fee.
You know, Miami-Dade is around 101, I believe. and
Well, I
they've
see
been-
that, but they're way on the
Yeah,
bottom.
they're way on the bottom. Absolutely, that's, like I said, Pasco several years ago went to 105, and then that last year went to 115 and made that additional jump. So, yes, we would still be a little bit lower on the Class A, but again, it was in combination with the other fees and looking at it from a holistic standpoint of what would that impact be for a standard tow for our consumers, but again, allowing for that incremental change. One thing I might add too is what we're also recommending and strongly encouraging is to revisit this. We've recommended 3 years, but to come back and have that regular interaction with the tow operators, obtain that input and feedback, and then also look at the different jurisdictions, see where we are at that point. Because we don't have a registration process, we don't have a way of, when we communicate them, it's because if we've received a complaint against that company. Other than that, we don't have regular meetings or discussions on that typically. So I think it'd be great, it was good to have that feedback previously and would recommend it moving forward as well.
Thank you.
Hang on a second, don't leave. I know in this, we're just talking about the rates, but, and correct me in my memory, that we had talked at one point when we, last time, maybe last year, a couple years ago, about the requirements on cash only versus taking credit card or debit card for storage.
Those changes went into place back in October 2016.
Okay.
So they are required to accept multiple forms of payment.
I just want to couldn't remember exactly. And then, have we heard feedback in your conversations? I know you don't have regular, but when we made the change as far as the enforcement of the overnight on towing at establishments that serve alcohol?
Yeah, we haven't had any, no complaints regarding that, and really not much feedback. If the only feedback's been positive that we have that in place, but no issues with complaints on that.
Okay, thank you, sir.
Yes.
Anyone else?
Great, in the meantime, we can reach out to the other counties to see if there's any proposed rate changes coming on the horizon prior to next Tuesday. Item 56 is our annual action plan for CDBG and home. 57 is a request to establish a development master plan for residential plan development consisting of approximately 4.9 acres in Palm Harbor. It's a 25-unit, single-family attached subdivision proposal.
A question there real quick. I know we don't want to get into too much here, but there's a little street that separates this development that is undeveloped at this point from the next housing subdivision. So, and I guess currently it would be a dead end as it goes into the park, the boat storage and the Sunland boat ramp there. So I want to make sure that whatever we do, that future option is very real to open that up. We've talked about, looking at a strategic plan for that boat ramp area. I want buyers of homes fully aware that that might happen before they buy. What happens, they come back later and say, well, we had no idea. We saw that it was closed off. Now you're wanting to open it up. And I think they need to know going in that it's a real possibility. So however we do that, it's not like buyer beware, but just let people know that that change has been considered in the past and might be considered again.
Renee's here. Well, Jake, it looks like he's coming up. But,
Jake Sauer, Assistant County Administrator. I understand, Commissioner, that little road, although it's a paper street, is not being impacted by the master plan.
Correct.
Sometimes when we get this, now if we want it, obviously we wouldn't have to allow it. But as you know, both sides may want to split the road down the middle and take it, but I don't believe that's in the master plan, and we'll confirm that before.
You mean the
next
road
week.
itself?
Yes.
Yeah, I don't think it is either. But what I don't want is folks buying it. We have a situation not too far away, say off Bee Pond Road, where we had a situation where everybody was supposed to know up front going in what the game plan was going to be at the end of it. And either they didn't know, they say, or they choose not to remember, or they don't remember. So one of the three things, I just want to make sure that folks understand what's possible.
That's true.
And it's not a big deal, but
That's one reason we're requiring in the new land code that these master plans come in and you all look at them ahead of time. so that,
I think it's notification.
yes, someone buying 2 years from now may wonder why, but it's all been discussed, and so the master plan would go forward.
But as you just said, this road is not part of that master plan.
It's not.
So
That means it'll stay there.
It'll stay
Now,
there
the
with.
fact that we may choose to build it or whatever is.
Could we record this? Therefore, would be
Yeah.
kind of a buyer beware.
Well, yeah, I think that would be good, and to obviously letting the developer know, just like they did in the other case, that they need to be aware of that too.
Okay.
That's what the master plan does.
Okay.
Okay.
All right. The next item is a request for a zoning change from R4 to multifamily residential, 4.7 acres. This is located unincorporated St. Petersburg. This is a zoning change for 27 vacant parcels, and the local planning agency recommended approval by a vote of 5-2. Item number 59 is a request for a zoning change from GO to multifamily residential on 3.5 acres. This area is, let's see. Again, it was recommended approval by the local planning agency on a 5-2 vote. Item number 60.
Wait, hold on one second. Madam Chair,
Yes.
on 59, do I see in here that they want to build multifamily residential developments?
That's correct.
Well, isn't this a property that is flooded all the time?
I would have to defer to staff on that.
That area over there, isn't it? I don't know who's here that can answer that.
Renee's here. Jake?
59.
As you know, it's a site plan issue. There are methods that they can do, they can elevate, but I mean, it's something that comes through site plan review, it'll be addressed for flooding issues, along the way. This is just merely looking at, it's zoned in land use for development now, for single-family homes, and for mobile homes. This brings it into a consistent townhome type of zoning to allow the property to develop.
So I bring this up, and I don't know if this is the appropriate place to talk about it or when in our process we would be talking about it, but we have our new resiliency person on board. And it seems to me that we need to be looking very seriously at these properties that are close to the water, that are prone to flood, and talk about how we are going to move forward to ensure that we're not putting people or homes or development in places that are ripe for, devastation in the event of a storm.
And I think the underlying issue there is the way we regulate our code, to make sure that if you have development, that it's not. So the question is our code sufficient to address that concern or not?
Well, don't we need to be looking at that ongoing all the time as we get these requests for changes?
Yes, Commissioner Rahim Harji, Assistant County Administrator. So this particular parcel, if it's in the flood zone, we have our floodplain ordinance that it'll have to meet, which has a freeboard requirement that provides that additional resiliency. It would have to meet our stormwater requirements, which requires you to have meet a future condition for tailwater that takes into account sea level rise. So they have to go through this process anyways. So it will be looked at is the answer.
Okay. I just hope that we're going to make sure that we are being very public and very open when we put these kind of things on our agenda for approval or whatnot, that these are the things that we're talking about going forward, because it just makes a bad situation worse if we keep on allowing all of this, if I'm saying it right. I'm sorry.
Yeah. So the, I think your point's a really good one.
Thank you.
The one I brought forward just a minute ago, I think, letting people know ahead of time what they're getting themselves into when they buy a house or a piece of property is really important. And so because 58 uses the word conditional overlay. And I don't want to talk about that one at this point, but I know I've asked us to, I don't know, Jewel and I have had some conversation about this, but we have a county-wide plan, and we also have our local codes that are in place that have overlays in place that basically get discarded if they're annexed. Those overlays are usually very well thought through. So I would just like at some point to have a conversation about overlays and how they fit into our county plan. And a lot of work goes in for previous commissions and residents that all of a sudden, if they're annexed and if they're not attached to the countywide plan somehow, and I don't know that you can attach, I'm probably saying something, uh-oh.
That's
Here
a
you go.
great idea. We
that-
haven't looked at that in a
Yeah.
long time.
So I think, that's something that I think we just need to know whether we can, how we do it, or whatever.
I don't want to get into, a detailed discussion. We could certainly put that on a future
Yeah,
agenda,
yeah.
but we are
Okay.
concerned about that, and
I
that's the
just
reason
do
I
wanna make
asked Ray
one-
just to touch on this.
One distinction, the overlay that we're talking about with this case is a zoning overlay. It's, I'm just.
Yeah, thank you.
Okay.
Yeah.
It's
I
not-
just saw
it's
the
not a-
word-
It's not a
We
community
are, but we
overlay.
are
Yes,
absolutely aware
okay.
of the larger issue.
I saw that word, Renee, so I thought I'd take advantage of a totally different situation, but thank you.
So that brings me to another question, if I might, just as a follow-up. All of these new things that we're talking about in a very robust way as it relates to resiliency and sustainability, are we educating our local planning agency folks that sit on that governing board? Are we educating them about our new discussions on this issue? Does anybody know?
I don't know the answer to that
Yeah, well,
question.
do you,
To my knowledge, we haven't had any explicit, presentations on resiliency at the LPA level. We certainly, obviously, we can tee that up. We can work with Hank and where the direction that the county's going, and just make
think
sure
it's
that
And
they're
if I
in
could
the
add
fold.
to Renee's comments, getting at some of the commentary Raheem made before, really the way that you're going to implement some of your resiliency policies is through your land development code. And your land development code will always initially go to the LPA for a recommendation to this body before it's heard. So that would be an opportune time to educate them on the policies behind potential changes that we might be making to your land development regulations.
Yep, I hear all that, but frankly, to me, it's putting the cart in front of the horse. We ought to be talking to them now so they know what it is that we're working on.
So just to add on to what Jewel just said, we have done that when
Oh,
we
good.
adopted the floodplain ordinance for the county that adds that resiliency component. It had to go to the LPA, so we presented to them, explained why we're doing this, and then they voted to approve it, and then it came to our board, and the board approved it as well. We did the same thing with the stormwater manual.
Oh, good,
So
okay,
we
now I
have
feel
been,
better,
we've done
thank
that.
you.
We have done that.
All right, I'm good.
And these parcels were not, preserved to development. They were from one type of development to another. So there was development eligible there before us doing anything.
I get it.
Okay, item 60 is a proposed ordinance. It's amendment to our land development codes. What this will do is this modifies and reduces our fees on small single family where we're defining as low-income households, so this will make it a bit easier in addressing affordable housing.
Yeah. I just know of a particular location that is going the other direction when we're trying to lower
I know.
fees for affordable housing and lessen the impact of cost. So I'm glad we're doing what we're doing. That's all I'm saying. Never mind.
Item 62.
Back from wherever you've been.
Yeah.
Item 61 is a proposed ordinance amending our comprehensive plan. This would amending the commercial general and residential or retail land use categories. This, in essence, it removes the 12.5 acre limited residential density restriction. This has been previously discussed, and you can see here that it allows these densities to achieve a higher underlying density depending on the respective category. Item 62 is proposed ordinance amending the future land use This is the first public hearing. Let's see. Why I'm drawing a blank on this one. I don't remember going over with staff, even though we did. Housing element. This is for the comprehensive plan to delete policies that limits. Okay, this goes with the previous one that limits affordable housing densities in certain commercial and mixed-use areas. And it allows for up to a 50% housing density bonus. Next is a petition. This is a vacation. This is a petition for a portion of Bay Shore Drive. The original width was modified due to potential conflicts. Under the modification, staff supports the request. On item 64 is another vacation. Petitioner was granted a setback variance from Board of Adjustments. This allows them to construct a pool. Again, there's no objection.
Can we go back to 62 for a second? And just kind of get an idea of what that actually means in real-world application?
Sure. I'll ask Renee to come up.
And is that countywide, or is that just in certain areas, or?
That is in our unincorporated comprehensive plan. Essentially what happened, the first set of amendments that's going for second reading, where we're allowing for the increased density in the commercial general and the ROR, those categories, there were some corresponding policies that we set up a conflict. There's a restriction now in the comprehensive plan in those two categories that put a cap on affordable housing density into the CG and the ROR. It's a holdover from many years ago. We missed it, and so we're cleaning that up so that if you're in commercial general and you have 24 units to the acre, you can do an affordable housing, at 24 units to the acre. Right now, it's capped at, I believe, 15. So we're just striking those and making it consistent so that we're not penalizing affordable housing developments in those two categories with a lower density than what's going to be allowed overall.
Okay, thank you.
Item 65 is a petition to vacate a portion of 118th Avenue North, east of Starkey Road. The petitioner has a business plan to increase its services and needs additional parking for employees. County staff requested an easement be retained over the vacated area, so I guess it'd be grass parking. They can support the request with that amendment. And finally, we have a petition to vacate a portion of Beach Drive, or Beach Parkway. And there's a portion of unopened right-of-way known as Beach Parkway lying within the boundaries of the petitioner's property. This will allow the petitioner more use of the front portion of their property. And again, there's no staff objection to this.
Okay. I don't know whether it's too late to do this, but 63 through 66, oftentimes the vacations are quick agenda items and people have to wait through lengthy other public hearings. And typically we put those at the beginning of the agenda for public hearings. So if it's not too late to move those to the front, that would be my preference.
Yeah, we can redo that. 63
Just
through
being
66.
citizen, it looks like it's 63 through 66 are all vacations.
Okay.
And
I haven't looked at them, but I'm assuming staff's recommending.
What's that?
I haven't looked at them, but I'm assuming staff's recommending approval on
They
all
are,
four.
they are on all of them.
In which case I agree with.
Yep.
okay, that would
do
be
that.
great. So you all will have to probably reprint your agendas, but I do think that's being citizen friendly.
Agree.
Do that.
Anything else? Okay, we are adjourned.
Thank you.